All right.
Hello? Are we live?
And we are.
What up?
Well, we're not live, but
Live enough.
we're alive.
We're alive.
We're living.
What's good, little bird?
Thanks for stopping by, Joel.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Thank you, man.
Mr. Joel Davis, Jolie Wan Kenobi.
Jolie Wan.
How
Kenobi.
did you come up with that anyway?
In high school,
So it's been for a while.
Yeah, I was kind of like a Star Wars nerd, obviously. And my friend Kenyon, who actually is like my half-brother, we grew up, he started calling me Jolie Wan. And it just sort of stuck.
Jolie Wan?
Jolie Wan.
With the intention of it being Okenobi or no?
Nah, he was kind of like trying to sound Rasta or something, like Bhagwan or something. And I was like, oh, word, I like that. And then I sort of just melded it. And also what's funny is I was the last person in my entire peer group to get on social media. And Max like forced me to get on social media because we had a show at...
Oh, it was Max?
Yeah. We had a show at 111 Minna in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And I was the only artist aside from Thomas Haig that had no social media. So he's like, you got to come up with a name right now. I was like, shit, Jolie Wan Kenobi.
Damn.
So that was the inception of that.
Damn, dude. So you've been through a lot of stuff. It feels like, especially with me coming up, like I kind of looked up to like you and the whole crew of like TCH and like Cappy and like your whole little clique of people.
Yeah, because we got about a decade on you in age.
I think so.
Something like that.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
But I really appreciate it, like kind of seeing, because it's not like I look up to you guys like, oh, you've made it. And it's just like I look at it like I can learn from, like not necessarily your mistakes, but like the way you've navigated things, necessarily.
Right.
And so like I really appreciated like even when I moved into your guys' spot with Phil and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
How like I'm like, oh, I can learn how to navigate things with Joel because you, especially around that time, you seemed like you weren't as confident and like clear in your vision of what you wanted to do.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well that's gonna happen within my own career a lot, and that's just gonna happen within like your ideas, like as a human, And so I always look up to people that have gone on a little bit before me, And
that was a weird period. I mean, COVID aside, because the studio, as you know, there was a little bit of a sketchiness factor that I had to deal with on a few occasions. Even once to the point of actually throwing hands at a dude that was breaking into Tali's car. That's kind of a funny story. But
did that happen like right before I got there? Or no?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think so. The dude was like, if he wasn't on meth, he probably would have got away with it because he like had all of homie's stuff like lined up outside of his car, and he was like categorizing it.
If
he just would have grabbed it, he would have dipped. But that moment was important to me because I was inside the studio with my ear protection on, a respirator on. I was grinding, and I call them intuitive hits. I just knew something was wrong. And Tali was outside painting right next to the dude and didn't notice him creep up.
Well,
Not to discredit Tali's perspective, he was in the moment, but I literally felt like some sketchy shit was popping off, and I walked out and caught him, and he's like, "This is my homie's car." The dude would have probably fucked me up if I didn't get him by surprise, because he was a pretty tatted up fucking junkie dude.
Where do you think that comes from? Because I heard you talk about this spidey sense all the time, and like honestly, when you said that, and I'm in there now alone, I kind of think about that, and I think about like, man, I gotta like nurture this spidey sense. Where do you think that like comes from? Like,
Oh, dude,
because you do talk about that a lot. Like,
I do. I don't know, man. I've always kind of had, I wouldn't call it psychic, but I've always kind of had like a good intuition about people and situations. Like the other day, that video I posted of that building getting like demolishing. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Even before
you knew
that,
it was gonna go.
Yeah, my homie was like, okay, cut this, and then we'll demo it. He's gonna come back with a tractor. But like an hour before it even came down, I was like, okay, we need to support it, and we need to be real fucking careful. Because, I mean, you saw the video, the homie...
just a couple knocks.
Mario barely hit it, and it went down.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is. I think we all have some of that. My friend Sean, who's like a martial arts expert, he's crazy good at, like, if someone's outside, he'll be like, oh, this person's over there. Or we'd play this game when we used to do Bujinkan. He used to train me in the Roosevelt Park.
Bujinkan.
It's like Japanese ninjutsu kind of. I never was quite that good at it, but I learned a lot about the spider sense shit from him. I'd like try to sneak up on him, or I'd be in the park and he'd try to sneak up on me, and I could never get him. It was like he was throwing his energy or like his vibe or whatever in a different direction. I'd be like, oh, I got you, motherfucker. And he'd sneak up behind me and choke me. Like, so I don't know what it is. We should actually have him on the podcast someday to discuss that, because
yeah, for sure.
I don't know what it is.
Well, that's like a thing. I've always been interested in that, because I remember when I go hunting with my dad, you know, like you would think, like a lot of people have this perception of hunting as like, oh, you go out, you shoot, and you kill an animal. No, like
a lot of waiting.
Majority of the hunting is actually like learning how to be stealthy when you walk, learning like the way that the landscape is, and that plays into like how you're going to sneak up on things. And
right.
I think that also in that you learn more about like how things can sneak up on you. And I think that's like something you should nurture. So like when you talk about how like you have the spidey sense, like so you could sense when someone's outside, and I've been with you a couple times. You're like, oh yeah, there's like
something's out of place.
Something's out of place, you know. And that's why I even text you, because like I felt kind of weird. Like I was like, wait, were these bullet holes here before?
You know what's crazy is I don't think they were.
No.
I mean, I don't know. That place was so gangster that
it was weird, man. Because I was like, I feel like I would have made note of this, that these were here before, but now I'm like, these seem kind of fresh.
Yeah, it's a matter of moments before people really exploit the weaknesses in that space, because I felt like Phil and I having a presence there kind of kept some law of the land going down. And it's paradoxical for me, because I grew up loving and appreciating and dabbling with graffiti like in the early 90s, and creeping around in tunnels and what we're going to do tomorrow. Like I love that stuff. But now on the other end of it, when like I'd like $15,000 worth of tools in a building where people are doing tomfoolery outside of the building, it put me in like, put me in like a little bit of a different perspective on that. Not to say I'd call the one time or anything, but it was interesting. I was like, wow, am I like the old dude calling the cops on graph kids? But I'm like also knowing if someone saw some opportunistic stuff, they might try to break in.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with vandal shit, you know. I mean, there's all respect for like graffiti writers and stuff, but sometimes, you know, the vandals bleed into other realms of vandalism that might take your shit.
Some of the dudes that Dial knows in LA, he's told me stories like they're prolifically vandalist dudes, and that's the least of their crimes. Like that's what they do normally, you know what I mean? I'm
They're
like
doing it for fun, basically. Yeah.
That's just fun. They're doing like 20 other crimes that are actually like pretty crazy, legit things. So and that's never why I really progressed with it too much, is like painting at night. It's like in my mind I could hear everything, and I would think people could hear me. But really, like what Tolly's been showing me, you just got to go out and do it, you know. So that's why I kind of never progressed in that, and I think that's kind of how I segued into different kinds of mediums, you know.
Well, like you get your senses get heightened, and so like, and then even when you make art, I don't know. When I make art, I feel like my senses actually go down into like it goes into a place of just I'm focused solely on that, and like that stuff can sneak up on you,
right?
So, but like it seems like a little bit more the opposite. Like your senses get heightened when you're making art, you know, more or less. Do you think that plays into like why you didn't want to go at night? And
I don't know. I've never really thought of it in that sense. I do know that some of my best work happens when I get into a flow state and I'm just freestyling the sculptures or the mosaics, but I can't always hit that mark. Yeah. Like I tried to do a painting with David Cappy the other day, and I did one that I wasn't thinking about, and it came out fire, those three like little sort of devil characters or whatever. And then I tried to do it again, but I was thinking about it, and it came out kind of shitty. And I was like, well, how do I tap into that? And I know it's just repetition, I think, like anything else, but it's like people used to give me piece books to draw in back in the day, and I was like, and I'd overthink it and kind of fuck it up. But if I wasn't thinking about it, I would kill. So I'm like, what part of my brain do I have to shift to get that more accessible? And I'll use like rock climbing. This dude I used to chill with, Eric, is a great rock climber. And when you're doing this crazy ascent, you can't think about stuff. You're just in the moment. And there's something about tapping into that moment to get some, pretty prolific work. And in the next couple years, I want to kind of meld those two approaches, because like cutting stone or cutting wood is very permanent and very like you got to be on point. But I like the free nature of it, and that's why I'm attracted to some of your work. You're just going out there and just you make a prolific amount of paintings, which is kind of the opposite of my current, how much work I'm producing. Yeah. But my shit's so tedious too, so it's it's just different approaches.
Would you say you want to have like a bunch of work?
I want to loosen up. Okay. I want to make like those like psychotic sketches that are almost Basquiat-esque. Those weird, stupid sketches I do. I'd like to start turning those into sculptural forms. Mm-hmm. And I see it. I just haven't quite put the pieces together with the process, I guess, in my mind.
Yeah, it sounds like you're kind of stuck maybe. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say what project onto you, but I think a lot of it, I had this realization today, even when I was kind of just downtown. I was like looking at how everyone was working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how much of this is like based on time? So like, does time equal better work? I don't know. I mean, I was talking to my homie Noah about that too, and I'm like, because you could make some of my line making and a lot of the stuff that I really appreciate in art, especially when it comes to lines, and I think in graffiti as well, it bleeds over into graffiti, is the Japanese outlook of the single line.
Yes,
like calligraphy and stuff like that. And so I was like, well, you can make a beautiful line, and that's a beautiful work, and that took an amount of time. And what is cool is you can actually see a passage of time in that line. And so, and then I think that I see that a lot in your sculpture work though too. I can see stuff that like when you actually spend some time with it and you look at the work, you can see stuff that took an amazing amount of time, took like tedious amount of time. You can see that stuff, lines that like were like very quick,
really quick.
So
I'm glad you said that, because I've made this analogy before. I don't know if I was talking to somebody, but someone was like kind of giving a critique of my CV, because I hate that shit. It's hard for me to write narratives. My work means stuff. My paintings mean a lot, but like my sculptural forms, I like to think of it as like a samurai pulling out a sword 10,000 times. Yeah, it's just a line. It's just a shape. Mm-hmm. And the execution of a good shape, to me, even if it's not some like profound narrative, that's hitting the mark. When I hit like even a simple shape and it takes 5 minutes or 10 days, that's when I get that high feeling off art, like when you're really satisfied with something. And it's usually halfway before a piece is done, I'll hit one or two of those moments and I'm like, yeah. But then I have like 10 more hours of finishing it, and then I start to almost lose focus.
Well, then the craft comes in at that point.
The tedium. And I like the mindlessness to it. Like some people hate sanding. I love sanding. Mm-hmm. I'll just get blazed and just like turn a piece of wood into glass. Mm-hmm. And I'm learning with this cabinet maker dude at my new studio. And what's really inspiring is I'm just good enough at woodwork to realize I don't know shit. And that means I'll never be bored in the rest of my life. Like people who don't have art, I don't know. Like if I didn't have art, I wouldn't even be here. I'd probably be a junkie or something. I mean, I'm just kind of speculating, but what the fuck? Like, I don't know what else I'd do. I mean, now you and I will never be bored. We always have something to create and put energy into, or, and that's a blessing. I have so much gratitude for even getting to the point where I'm not dabbling, because I've been kind of dabbling for like literally like 20 years. Yeah. And in the last few, it's really sort of
committed,
felt cohesive, and felt like a full commitment. You know what I mean? Excuse me.
Well, then you'll struggle with that commitment too, because as much as you make that commitment, you're gonna be like, oh, is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing?
Nah, I'm beyond that at this point. You think so? I'm a lifer.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear, man.
Yeah. The only paradox is sometimes I have to do construction to make money, but another thing in this last couple years have shifted in my perspective. Like I no longer hate on doing that kind of work, because it's brutal, it's toxic. There's oftentimes very weird vibes on job sites, or it's just not it's not the thinking man's sport in certain job sites. But I'm to the point in my career where I could control the music on a job site, put on some weird ass shit, control the vibe, you know what I mean? I'm more of a...
Well, sounds like you got a good balance.
I'm close. I'm really close. I mean,
Okay.
and the materials that I cut in construction could sometimes inform the fine art. So in that regard, it's okay. I'd much rather just do art full time, but also if someone in their house wants a giant mosaic commission or sculptural forms that are built into their house, that's kind of almost the direction I want to go. And so, I had a friend, I'm not going to say who he is. He's kind of player hating. Well, that's not art, bro. Like, well, I'm like, I don't see distinctions like that. I really don't. Like, if someone's really good at, even like watching, I don't know if you've watched like a stucco crew or like Mexican dudes doing fucking diamond finish.
Yeah.
It's art. It's not necessarily like, oh, this means this. But these guys are so well oiled and killing it so sick that it's that pulling the sword out feeling.
Exactly.
And I'm like, they don't see it that way, but I see it. Dude, I've been a tradesman 25 years now or more. I don't even remember. I'm getting old, dude. But yeah, I don't see much of a difference now, and that's why someone like Rocky's inspirational to me. He's just like, and then check this out. I'm like, what, dude? Like, he's just always mashing.
You know what? I mean, if Rocky listens to this, you probably hate this, but like, I think you're actually becoming more like Rocky in this sense that
we're both bald.
The thing that I've always loved about Rocky, and the reason why I can listen to him for so long, and I mean, I have three of his paintings in it, and actually they're three of my most favorite paintings he's ever done.
Wow, yeah.
Is because Rocky has always maintained this childlike wonderment with everything, and I try to put a lot of my own wonderment, childlike wonderment, into things. And people think like, well, you know, becoming a child is regressing, or becoming a child is just tapping into your inner child. But I think honestly, becoming a child again is like a very like dedicated, ritualistic like training you have to do.
I agree.
Because you're trying to like unlearn, because trying to unlearn stuff is harder than learning stuff, I feel like most times.
Think about the indoctrination we all had with Albuquerque public schools or wherever you went to school. I basically, 1st through 5th grade, I was killing it. And then in 6th grade, all my friends started wearing Raiders jackets and gangbanging. And I'm like this skater dude. It was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
So that was weird. And then you'd go home and your dad's fucking nuts and shooting people. And, you know, that's weird. So, and then... let's see, how do I even break this down? I lost my childhood. I had to kind of like force my emotions away. And now that I'm to the point where I have the, I guess, perspective to regain childhood, like that's something I'm relearning.
Yeah.
I didn't crack a smile or cry for years, and it wasn't like a macho thing. It was just like this weird darkness. And I've purged that. You know, I don't know exactly when it happened, but in the last 5 years, I just kind of like let go of something. It was almost like a release valve.
Yeah.
It was that easy. And I've had some Buddhist teachers that are like, oh, just decide you perfect. And I'm like, nah, dude, it takes time. And they're like, no, it doesn't. And I used to be very like upset about that, but now they were right. I was like, wow, it's like you reached a different level on the video game or something.
Well, I think we all kind of think that it's going to be like a switch, you know, turn it off, because I think people actually are addicted to epiphanies and moments of clarity.
Yes.
Or because like it's a movie, you know, you like, something clicked and then epiphany hit and then everything opened up and the whole world changed. But I think it's different than that. It's a gradual thing. You know, you have to have a series of epiphanies, and you have to have like a journey through it. And then when you look back on it, then you're like, oh, it did kind of just, even though it goes back to time, man. It didn't necessarily click all in one moment, but it clicked over a series of moments that became this one realization, you know.
Totally.
And I think I can see you on your path there, Joel. Like,
I feel it, man. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, for sure. You know, especially knowing you and like being real close to you over a year. Yeah. Like you're in a different spot. I'm in a different spot than we were a year ago, and the world's in a different spot. And I feel like you're 100% more optimistic about the future too, which is pretty dope.
I wouldn't go as far as saying I was emo, but I was kind of like I was like Eeyore for a long time there. But you know, it was hard. I mean, I had a period where, and I just figured this out. I've told you this before, but I'll say this for the podcast. Like I had a bunch of PTSD that I didn't deal with, I guess. And when the people were trying to break into the art studio, You saw me. I got all American Hipster X for a while there. I was like with a gat and shit. But it was scary. These people were trying to break in and steal my stuff. And then at my house, because I live kind of in your current neighborhood,
sides, yeah.
I'd go home and there'd be gangster stuff popping off behind my alley. And I just couldn't sleep. And I kind of had to go through that. Now I have like a new studio.
Happening too.
Then the quarantine was popping off. And at the time I didn't have any money. So it was a bunch of things. And I thought,
got denied by a grant. All of it.
multiple grants. You know, the funny thing about that is at that time, that would have saved my life. Just that little money they're trying to kick out. Man. And I'm like, yo, guys, I've helped you guys, but whatever, it is what it is.
I mean, a lot of my anger towards that organization that they weren't really helping out artists was actually was like seeing it right in front of me. I'm like, man, like this is someone that actually really needs it. And they're not even, you know, the way that they, you know, go along choosing and picking things doesn't really make sense to me.
No, I mean,
I'll be continually criticizing. There's a call right now that's opened up for native artists specifically that everyone fucking tagged me and sent to me, and I was like, honestly, that's kind of why I deleted my social media, like one aspect of it too, because I was like, yo, I'm gonna pop off and probably.
Yeah,
but I mean, not to say I'm not afraid of doing that. I'm never afraid of criticizing any institution, but. I feel like, you know, I can be more destructive in that instead of being more constructive in trying to help out other people, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought about this now. Like, you don't want to burn bridges, especially in like a scene or a subculture or a small city, smallish. Albuquerque's getting bigger, but just freeze the bridges. Make it to where people will slip and they won't be able to get to you to a certain point, but destroying the bridge entirely. I mean, I've done that. My dad used to say that more Irishmen have been killed or hung by their tongue than by rope.
True.
And that's me, dude. Back in the day, too many beers, and I'll pop off some crazy shit. And it's kind of true, but it's out of context. And people are like, whoa, what? You went from some conspiracy theory to popping off about like an art institution. And in my mind, it makes sense. But to someone who doesn't know the way like you and I communicate or the way that like me and Eric and you communicate, it's kind of free flow. There's a lot of jokes and cynical jokes tied in.
There's a lot of
people who don't
stuff,
know that are like, what is going on here? So, you know, I try to like shut up a little bit. Bit more
like language is
in my
important,
old age.
You know? Yeah, language is important because also perception of language. And I remember Eric telling me, we were at a party one time and someone was telling him he's like, well, you use big words. And he's like, well, you should know them. And I'm like, hey man, you can't use that excuse on everything. You have to, if you're so great and up in, you know, elevated to this level, you should have consciousness of the way that you are communicating with people that haven't that knowledge, you know. And I think that is actually more of a journey once you get to a point of knowledge of checking yourself, checking your ego, and checking.
It's like, who are you trying to impress by saying antithesis to someone who's like a sixth grade reading level?
Exactly. Do you want to help people actually? You know, and that's what's so important. Actually, that's one big reason why I'm doing the podcast, because I'm so enamored by language and communication, because I feel like majority of all problems in the world could be solved just by better communication with each other. You know?
Oh, that's why there's so much just people just spitting vitriol on social media. Like, you don't see the body language. You know, an emoji isn't like me scowling or me smiling. I could tell you something crazy and have a funny expression. You'd be like, what up, Joel?
Or voice even.
Or tonal range.
Everything, yeah.
So all of that is lost through technology. And
like
a lot of arguments pop off because of that misinterpretation or...
Me texting you, fuck you, Joel, versus me saying to you, like, real nicely into like, fuck you, Joel.
I'd be like, yeah, son, what up? What up, Doug?
It's like a whole different meaning, you know?
For sure. And so much gets lost in that. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. And you were saying that, you know, you were observing like David and Thomas Haig and myself, kind of, I wouldn't say the older school, but, you know, we're getting up there. When you came into the spot, I loved your youthful energy. And that sounds cliche, but that's not a cliche. I just haven't thought of how else to express it. Like... I'm like, what is this Molly Percocet song these kids like nowadays? And you're like, yo, son, what?
Well, it's future, dude. Mask off.
It's the future. And the mask off, you know, once COVID's over, that song will go through the rotations even more heavy.
Yeah. Well, when I hear that youthfulness, I don't actually take it as people sunning me, or because I know what I know, and I know that I don't know as much. You know, there are some things that come with experience.
Totally.
And I don't know. I was telling. I think it goes on, you know. I was talking to Riley, who actually I'm going to have on probably on the podcast later, but I was talking to him, and he's a little bit younger than me, and I realized, I'm like, oh man, like it's weird, like you're not that much younger than me, but you look up to me in some sense, and so I feel this responsibility. But one thing that I was telling him, I was like, yo man, when you're young and when you're youthful, you have to use that energy, man. You have to really take advantage of that, because you're going to get to a point where you start to feel old and you don't have that energy
I
anymore.
wasted mine, dude. I wasted mine with sorrow, regret. And I had my neck broken when I was younger. Not broken, but it was like a herniated disc. And I guess I just wasn't educated enough through yoga and chiropractic and massage. I could have at least got to the place where I'm at now. Yeah. But I lost literally like 10 years from that. And now I'm trying to, I guess, not recapture, but sort of relive those periods. And it wasn't like I was like just all crazy but I was not in a good place, you know? Mm-hmm. And
well, you had pain, man. You had physical
I still have pain.
My
my head hurts now. I'll always have a neck pain and a right hemispherical headache, but I could deal with that.
Damn, bro.
But I've had that. I mean, dude, I was, this is kind of crazy, but when I was living in Denver, my head hurt so much. If I pulled my hair, it would like give me some like sort of like traction on the skeletal structure on my spine, because it would like pull the discs kind of away from each other and alleviate some of the nerve pain. And it got to the point where it literally had this like weird spike looking thing that was my hair. And my homeboy was like, dog, you got to shave your head. You have a fucking unicorn horn, dude. And I'm like, but my head hurts. And then I looked in the mirror.
It wasn't aesthetic. You would just do that because it felt better for your head.
Yeah, I would just naturally pull it. And when I saying this right now, it sounds so crazy, but anyone that's had a real traumatic like injury or whatever, and it's funny now. I mean, I guess it's funny.
Well, I mean,
it's kind of funny.
If it's funny to you, man, I mean,
it was
my
whack,
perception
man.
is I don't have that pain, so I don't even know. Anytime I get a headache, I'm a baby, dude. I can't take any headache.
Oh,
so
dude,
I don't even know.
Dudes are babies, man. I'll get a cold and be like, I hate this. My sister has like 5 colds and she's still dealing with my mom who's sick. And I'm like, dude, you guys are hard.
I mean, women, they have a period every month.
Yeah, and some of them have a lot of pain.
They do.
Not all of them, but some of them really do.
All kinds of shit. Could you imagine going through that every month, man? You get bloated. You get irritated for no fucking reason.
We're going to get canceled if we pursue this topic any further.
No, dude. I feel like we can talk about periods on this podcast.
I think so. I think we can talk about anything, man.
I don't know what it is, man. Like,
pain's crazy. I finally got my pain under control, and I just wish I could go back and tell younger me, like yoga. Yoga. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna get canceled tonight, dog. Yeah, yoga saved my life, man. Did you like the yoga the other night? And the cold plunges?
I really needed that yoga session. I feel like I was a little out of tune with which is weird, man. I think people like myself, and I would consider myself to be actually really pretty in tune with their body and their self.
I would say so.
I realized that like I had gotten really out of tune, and I think that's actually kind of, well, I wouldn't say easier, but it's like when you are so in tune with yourself and your body, you kind of get it's easier to get lazier, you know, because you feel like, oh, I have this on autopilot. Oh. But that yoga session really did open up a sense of like, oh man, like you're not really worried or focused on something right here, you know?
Well, it's just one aspect of your life that you haven't been putting regimented time into for a while is all.
Yeah.
And Casey's dope. I mean, it's not like a regular yoga class, and I don't hate on the namaste stuff, but you know, dude, I came here with crystals in my pocket, but there's some that are so quiet and everyone's wearing tights, but Casey, he has a good approach, and he and I were joking about how like construction workers need to go to yoga classes. Mm-hmm. And we were like, well, fuck. And then he got certified in yoga because, dude, Casey was really injured. He could barely walk. And then he did the yoga certification, hot yoga training. Mm-hmm. And it literally saved his life. And because he and I were doing a job. And, I mean, this is, I don't even know.
How'd you guys meet?
9 years ago.
Just through construction?
Oh,
or
no.
through art?
This is
Through art or construction?
No, this is funny.
I'm gonna have to have Casey on now so we have some context.
Yeah, Casey Allen War, really good metal sculptor.
I love his work.
He's good.
I mean, he's
People are like, oh, the geometry dude. I'm like, bro, he does so much different things. He's a king.
Yeah,
he's a real king, and he's real humble. It'd be funny to see him on here because
he's super humble, man. He's a super fun guy, and I don't know. It's his. I mean, his work is recognizable, and when I see it, I'm like, I could not do that. I look at it, it's like I got this simplicity to it that's like beautiful, but it's got this craftsmanship to it. And I'm like, I don't even know how.
Dude, I'm
to do that.
a really good craftsperson, and some of his freestyle stuff I couldn't do. I mean, granted, I'm not a good welder. I actually melt through stuff, so I have a lot to learn in that medium. But yeah, it's almost like some Rain Man shit. He'll be like, 87 triangles at 32 degrees, and he'll like just freestyle it. It's this weird, like he's seeing math. And I don't work that way. You've seen most of my sculptural forms are more flowy and anthropomorphic.
I don't get that from you. You know, I don't get the math aspect from
not
you.
at all.
Don't take
Dude,
that. Don't take that as a diss, but like, no, I don't get the math.
Bro, I took algebra 1 twice, and then I still was pissed off. Like, but geometry I got. Trig, I understood the premise, but I never even finished my undergrad. I got to a point where I was like, I don't even see why I'm here. But that's a whole other topic.
Isn't that weird though? Like how we can. I'm gonna pursue this topic of math a little bit, like because it does interest me. I'm terrible at math, but a lot of art is math. You know.
I know.
You know, and a lot of. I forgot who I was listening to, but they were talking about how math is the universe's language.
Right.
You know, and so as artists, I think I talk to a lot of artists who have an aversion to math.
Myself as well.
You know?
It's the only constant, right? It's like the only constant in the universe from a certain perspective.
But we also talk about how we're also really connected with it, you know, and we think we're on this high horse of like, oh yeah, I know what the universe is, and the universe gives me this, blah, 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 blah. But like, we don't even know, we're not even good at the language of the universe, which is considered math. Because I do believe it is the language of the universe, but I'm adverse to it.
Take a massive 3 hits of DMT, and you'll see math. But I'm not going to write that shit out. I'm not going to be like, this is this, this is this. Casey would be able to be like, oh, that's these many shapes, and that's the angle, you know.
Damn, dude. Do you think that would happen? Do you think if you did a really good hit of DMT and then you'd be like, I know algebra all of a sudden?
Not me.
No,
dude. I felt this was a long time ago, but I was in a not TVI, that's too old school, but C&M class. Yeah. And I was obviously the oldest person there. Actually, the first day, these kids walked up and they're like, where's the syllabus, sir? I'm like, dude, I'm wearing a Wu-Tang shirt. I'm not the instructor. And they gave me this weird look, you know. But where was I going with that? Yeah, I never finished.
That's funny. They thought you were the teacher.
Yeah,
man.
They're like, sir, the syllabus. I'm like,
actually, man, you do have teacher vibes.
I'm good at teaching.
You got substitute teacher vibes.
I'm good at teaching up and coming artists and people that are like passionate about cutting stuff. But I taught a high school class at working classroom, and it was very challenging. The kids were cool, but they really didn't pay attention and they didn't care. And I had to put myself in their shoes. I'd be like, dude, when I was in high school, I was just like, I love boobs. I love graffiti. I'm doing acid. I can't judge them. You know, I cannot judge them.
That was me too, man.
But man, they were kind of shitheads, man. I was like, oh no. Although the only kids that weren't shitheads were kids from Mexico. They were polite, they were articulate, and they would do what I asked them to do. All the other kids were just, I had to like kind of build their sculptures for them. The kids from Mexico were awesome. I was like, is that a cultural thing or maybe a poverty thing? I know people that are broke, and I'm not saying people from Mexico are impoverished. Don't cancel me. I'm just saying that these kids were on point. And I know, you know, I grew up, I was homeless for a period in my childhood, and I was just like very polite. If someone did something good or paid attention to me, I'm like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, whatever. You know, open the door. Like, I respect that. So you
taught a class at working classroom, and it was like a day, or was it?
It was a week. I think it was two days a week for a semester.
Oh wow, okay.
It was, and actually Eric got me the job, and I think I was qualified in most regards, but I even got a little hung up with like like attendance and little dumb things were kind of challenging for me, which is really weird. I have crazy dyslexia too. I don't know. Only my really close friends know that. So it was a different skill set, but I was also like, yo, I don't know if I want to teach younger cats unless it's like a mentorship or I've had some young art, or actually not young artists. I had a cool thing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but Chelsea Wrightson. She just came to the studio and we just did a little tile thing together. And I was like, okay, I could really one-on-one stuff, or even if it was a small class with art medium.
Yeah.
If the people are into it, I would kill at that.
Yeah.
But kids that aren't interested, I just don't want to chase them around. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of their time.
Well, that comes into a lot of teaching, right?
Probably,
I feel
yeah.
like that's why people that high school's weird, man, because a lot of the times kids are there against their own will. They don't necessarily want to be there. You know?
I was.
And then even in college, that people be taking classes that they don't even necessarily want to be in. So like it's interesting to hear your perspective on that, because I feel like, I mean, it's a criticism of how like bureaucratic things get put into play under the guise of helping the community.
Totally.
But it's still got like the way that it's formatted. And I think the easy way out that everyone always takes, especially with these programs, is just like, well, you make your curriculum. It's up to you as the teacher and the artist to do what you want. Right. I'm like, no, like if, you're asking an artist to come in who is an expertise in their art, they're not an expertise in education, and what I wish more people that were educators. And I've noticed this like in me teaching and stuff. It's like people that are only stuck in the education realm, they get lazy with it. They just think, oh, we're going to hire an artist and he's going to teach them how to make art.
Yeah. If I would have had someone that would have shouldered the burdens of the, like, not even the academia side, but if someone would have been my homie to help me with like
the structure,
the attendance, the structure, the this, I would have probably done a lot better.
Exactly.
Funny story.
Set you up for success at that point.
One of the kids I really liked was a total miscreant, like just, total anarchist little cholo dude. He was badass. But I left the classroom to use the bathroom. I was like, okay, you guys good for a second? I'll be right back. And I walk away and I come back. I don't even know. It was some mumble rap song, but it was like super explicit. They're bumping it. And right then, I think it was like whoever's funding working classroom or some higher up, I don't know who it was, happened to be showing up like randomly. Yeah. And they're bumping some like really explicit music. And I was like, oh shit, I turned bright red. I'm like, So anyway, the kid who turned it on got kicked out.
What?
And I felt bad, but he, he had like 3 strikes. He was like at strike 10. But I liked him. I almost wanted to sit him back and be like, dog, just get through this and this. Life gets better. It changes. I've been there. But he was acting out because that was probably his only like facet or whatever. It was like his only, I don't know. I was kind of an anarchist little shithead when I was a kid too.
Honestly, in my teaching experience, and granted, this is coming from me.
Were you at IHAS or is that what it's called?
I'm a teaching
NACA.
At NACA.
NACA.
Right now.
Okay, word.
In my teaching experience, and it's coming from me, 28 years old.
Big dog.
Like that's the thing is like. And I go back and forth with people that have hired me and paid me to teach kids how to do things. I'm like, yo, you could hire anyone to teach them to do these things.
A regimented
and if
thing.
anything, they will learn how to do this shit on the internet if they really care about it.
Right.
What you should really be hiring a teacher for is like experience in life and how they're going to. Because when you think about the teachers that have ever made an impact in your life, they made an impact of your life because they like met you on a personal level.
I was just going to say that. You're absolutely correct.
They didn't necessarily teach you a craft or anything like that. Those kind of teachers have their place as well. And you'll seek those out, those kind of people. When you want to learn how to do something, you will seek them out.
Right.
But when you want to like find yourself and find how to deal with life, that's where a real teacher comes into play.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, what do they say sorry to cut you off.
No.
When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that could be flipped too.
Exactly.
Yeah. We learn a lot from anything as soon as we take a break and are in the present moment. True. And I got super pissed off today. I shouldn't have. Today was hilarious. Today, have you ever had days where like everything you do, it kind of like backfires.
Oh yeah.
And you should just go home and like jack off or something. You're like, I hate this. I'm over it.
Yeah,
but so I went to Home Depot, or I went to Lowe's. The paint I bought, I was trying to roll these walls at my new studio. It was literally the viscosity of like milk, and it had zero coverage. And I was like, damn it.
Did you shake it?
Oh, dude, I stirred it, dog. I whipped it up. It was whack. It was whack paint. I might use it as an art thing, like just to like if I want to make some of my sculptures look like I dipped it in milk.
Well, maybe there was a bad batch of paint, man. Sometimes they fuck up on that shit. Those miscolors, mistints and shit.
I blame Trump for that paint not being mixed properly.
Damn it, Trump.
No, so then I went.
He's not even your president anymore.
No,
so
dude.
You can't really even blame him.
QAnon said he's coming back, bro. He's coming, dog. No, so anyway, so this is a dumb story, but
dude, I want to talk to you about conspiracy theories.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's gonna get me real in trouble. I could get all Alex Jones.
No, dude.
Interdimensional reptilians, Jesse.
Yes, exactly.
You guys don't even know.
Exactly.
But anyway, I had to go to Home Depot after that, and like this is my one day off, right? This whole week, and I'm driving. I saw a dude cut through 2 lanes of traffic on Coors, looking at his phone. I was like, wow. Some days it's like there's an idiot energy that like the chemtrails just spray idiot energy on everyone in Burke, and it just the drivers just get all crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I was driving home not home to my new studio, which is on like old Coors basically. My side van door started falling off my fucking side. I curse a lot. You're not cursing much. I feel bad. You got to bleep everything I say.
What are you talking about, bro? I would curse.
But anyway, my van started trying to fall. Like the van door almost fell off mid paint drive. And that, anyway, it was one of those days. And I just had to laugh because if I push it, if I get more mad, it's like, I think Bill Burr talked about this. Like the more mad he gets, like the more shit will just keep happening. And I believe that.
It's true, man.
It's a weird energy that you put into the world.
It's kind of a self-fulfilling thing, and I struggle with that a lot. You know, I know what you're saying, man.
Yeah.
Especially these past couple days.
That's hilarious.
I definitely will be like, well, just keep piling it on. Let's make this bad shit keep happening. You know?
Don't do that.
You know, I know. And I have that voice telling me don't do that. But, you know, I'll fucking listen to it, you know. But, no, I feel you. I feel you on that. I like the idiot contrails. Do you think they be spraying on people, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know anymore. But I know I'll never buy paint at Lowe's again.
Well, I thought it was Home Depot. Was it Home Depot?
No, I had to go to Lowe's first. And then I had to go to Home Depot just based on the proximity of that to my studio.
So I get most of my house paint from Lowe's.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I'm over that.
So, like, since you moved to a new spot, has your... Because I realized that changed for me when I moved studios. My, like, routine of, like, getting materials. And since, like, your work's a lot of based on materials.
It's material heavy, yeah.
But you're not necessarily, a lot of your stuff's reclaimed and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I was climbing in the Factory on 5th dumpster today.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Did you find some good shit?
No, but I got to talk to my young friend. David Cudney's son is called Darius, and I call him Don Darius. And I got to kick it with him. He's like 6 or 7. We talked about Pokemon. And his dad got all mad that he was in the dumpster. And then I saw my friend Malia, and we had a friend die not too long ago, Julie Broken. She was a good artist, very, very delicate, very nature-centric, found object-y. Like, her and I did shows. I curated a show like 6 or 7 years ago, and it was her and me and Thomas, and Jody Herrera was in it. It was a dope show. It was kind of hodgepodgey. I think in the future I'll curate shows that have more cohesion, you know, there's more cohesion to it. But
are you attracted to that? Are you attracted to curating stuff?
I'm pretty good at it. I think I would. Here's the thing, man. With job sites and even with the weird hierarchies of like, just to break like male groups, relationships of dudes, whatever. There's like this hierarchical thing. I don't like being the leader, but I like being the second in command, who's like kind of keeping shit going.
The foreman.
I'm great at that role.
Yeah.
I'm not great at the top role because it's just weird and goofy and you drive around all day. I'm paraphrasing, of course, here, but I'm great at this being the second dude. And it's funny, at our spot, it was kind of like me and Phil were like that. He's the kind of like the he's the RZA, right?
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like the old dirty bastard
Damn, he's gonna
holding
hate
the
that
shit
you said
down.
that.
Oh shit, yeah, I forgot. Phil, I'm just kidding, dog. I only say that because he's the supposed leader of the Woo, man. I'm sorry, but yeah, my bad. You know me, Phil. I'm not fucking with you, dog. You're my dog.
The mighty Woo. But no, I can see that, man. Like, what do they call that on the ship? It's like you're what do they call that? The ship's mate? Is it the ship's mate?
I don't know,
even fucking
dude.
know, man.
The salty dog.
The salty dog. Like,
He's
you
like,
got the
"Yo."
captain, and then you got the second.
Oh, this is funny.
Second in command.
The kids at C&M, because I haven't talked about that in a while, they called me the seaboat captain, or El Capitan del Mar,
Yeah,
I
man.
think is what they said.
Yeah.
El Capitan del Mar. This one kid would yell at me in the fucking halls all the time. I was like, yo, what up? He was all into Jedi mind tricks. He and I talked hip hop every now and then.
It's an interesting. Like, you kind of
That's
reminiscing
funny.
about shit, but like, just like where. So I'm 28.
Yeah.
Where were you when you were 28? I'd be curious to hear.
Let
about
me
that.
think about this for a second, because I was drugged a couple years ago and I fell down and had a traumatic brain injury, and since then
My memory is a little different.
it takes me I have to like write shit down and think about it. So give me just a second here. 28. I'm 41 now. I was back from Denver. I was back from Oakland area. Gosh, what was I doing? I think I was just starting to get serious about mosaic work.
Okay.
Yeah, that's I really don't know. I'd have to almost look through photos.
It's almost a decade
Like
ago.
since
That's
I
when you
rocked
changed
my
up your
since I
practice
rocked
and
my
everything.
head, I kind of
Yeah.
have to really look through flicks. It's a weird thing, man. When I hit my head, I couldn't smell for like a month.
Yeah.
This is before COVID, people. Don't even trip. And you don't have to hug me, but give me a fist bump, man. Fist bump, you could just wash that off real quick. That's all good.
Oh yeah, man. Like,
Let me think. 28. I think I was maybe living at the Dartmouth house. We lived at like a party house kind of thing.
so
Bunch
you
of
were
artists.
partying, yeah.
I don't know. I actually really don't know. I'd have to think about that.
That's interesting to me though, man. Because like time, like, am I gonna be like, damn, dude, what were you fucking doing when you were 28? Like 10 more years from now, I'm like,
Yeah, that's crazy. The only thing I would say, if I could go back and just, it's a very trite thing to say or very cliche, but I would just start building my core muscles and doing yoga.
You tell me that.
That's
a lot,
all I
man,
would
yeah.
do. That's all I would do. And I mean, I've been stabbed. I've fallen off stuff. I've said really inappropriate things.
Yeah.
I've done all these things. I wouldn't take any of it back, except for I would have a focus, or I'd probably start doing jujitsu at a young age.
So like, the more of the physical realm, you would take care of
Yes.
yourself physically.
I've always been, I don't know if you've ever studied Gurdjieff, but he has this whole thing that people are like intellectually intelligent, emotionally intuitive, or physically intelligent. And I'm emotionally intuitive first, physically intelligent second, and much to my dismay, intellectual as a third. That doesn't mean I'm a dunce. It just means that like the math thing, I'll look at a math
It's a
problem, just
hierarchy of what
scratch my head.
Yeah.
But I think something to do about the whole spider sense, to come full circle, something about being emotionally intuitive, that has something to do with the spider sense. Because when I lived at Bryn Mawr House,
Yeah.
I could be laying in my room, and I knew who was in the alley walking by. I could just sense it. There's a few homeless dudes that I talk to. You know me, I always chill with homeless dudes and shit. That's a Redbird or whatever. There's some native dude, and then there's that dude, and they all have like nicknames. Oh, that's Cowboy. But every now and then I'd get a weird feeling, and I'd walk and it'd be someone I didn't know, and I'm like, what is that? Like, I can't figure it out. And I think with more
Well, you're tapping into
practice or
something,
maybe more meditation, it'll make more sense. But it is a thing, and I think we all have all these intuitive things as humans, and as kids, like once we go to school, it almost kind of it gets taught out of us in a way. And Killer Mike on the new Run the Jewels has a statement about that. I'm not gonna sing it verbatim, but he's talking about you're the freest when you're 1 to 4, and after that you get shipped away for your body to get stored. And then he's talking about you get sort of indoctrinated with this education, and you kind of lose this spark of like this flight of fancy that people have when they're kids. Kids don't know. Kids like, I'm gonna fly. Yeah. And then you get told like you can't fly, and then you get a job, and the next thing you know, you're old.
Yeah,
you know?
true, man. You get old,
And there's
real
nothing wrong
quick.
with that either. But yeah, I'm finally, dude. I have arthritis now. I'm like, fuck, what the hell? I'm just now feeling like a child again. And parts of my body is like, yo, dude, what? You've been doing construction 25, 30 years. But you know, that's all perfect too. One of my friends thinks that it all happens as it should. I kind of don't fully agree with that because it seems like that's too out of your hands maybe, or, oh, it's all just going to happen.
Yeah.
But there's a happy medium. We're given stimuli and we could put stimuli into the universe.
Well, you got to put your foot forward, you know?
Yeah. Which is just taking the initiative, I suppose, with certain things.
Yeah. I mean, well, a lot of Western thinking is very dichotomous, you know, and it's very like you're doing good or you're doing bad. But I've always, I mean, the way I grew up, I've thought about like life is a path, but that path is not to one place or another, you know.
Right.
And you can go down certain paths, and you can always come back to that main path, maybe even. And there's no like, it's very like it's kind of destructive to think I'm at a crossroads and I gotta go this way or that way. You know, I think you can always come back to
stop,
you know?
go left, right.
Yeah.
Something I've said this years ago, and actually, I actually think that I had this epiphany during an psilocybin trip years ago, that our neurological pathways are these like stream beds, if you will, or rivers. And some of my more negative predilections as a kid, like I was kind of playing the victim back in the day. Oh, I've been shot, I've been stabbed. I made all these fucking excuses that only kept me in that place. But when I finally realized in the last 5 years, I've sort of had these epiphanies that we spoke about earlier. I just realized that these streams, if you will, yes, it's a deep rut of thought, like a neurological pathway or a dendrite. So you just have to start thinking something else. And it's been proven, and obviously I wouldn't have the perspective, or I wouldn't have the words to really describe it from a scientific perspective, but you just change the tributary, you change the neurological pathway, and eventually it will become your go-to reaction or response with a certain stimuli or a certain depressive thing, or, you know, all these things happen. Like today I was like, wow, I haven't been pissed in months, and I'm kind of getting pissed driving on South Coors right now because people are being dumb. And I caught myself. I was like, oh, this is just funny. And right as I thought that, my door almost fell off. And I was like, oh, okay. This is on some like Mercury in retrograde action. It's trying to test me. So I caught myself again and laughed about it. Or I could have got pissed and the door would have probably fallen off and caused a car accident. Yeah. But that's a story. Yeah. That's not reality. That's a projection. But I think if we project hard enough, things will potentially manifest.
Well, it's like the string theory of like there's different timelines you can go on to, and I don't know, man. I go back and forth with like what you can control and what you can't control, and I'm very much aware when I'm like, okay, you're getting real worked up about something, you know, and I think it's easy, like for me, it's easy to let things go when it's like people that you don't know, you know. It's much harder when it's like real personal relationships, you know, when it's real personal relationships and people you know, and you're like, man, like they're fucking me over, or like they're doing this on purpose, or like, and then that's much harder to let that shit go. And then, but I always, what gets me out of it is realizing like, yo, it all comes back to you.
Right.
You know, and I think people steer away from that feeling because it feels very lonely, you know, when it does come back to you, because it's like you really can only control what you can do in this life, and people hate that because they want it to be other people that like make the decisions for them. You know, we want other people to create the happiness for ourselves. When it's just like, you know, like
a lot of people base their happiness on relationships, and I had a friend who.
Oh, I definitely do that.
Really? Yeah. See, I don't know, man. I had a few really good relationships, and then I just sort of like ghosted myself on that. But one of my good friends, she jumps from relationship to the relationship. She's a serial monogamist. It's kind of cool, and she learns all these different things from different lovers. But there's never this introspective alone period. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm probably on the antithesis side. I'm like been alone for too long. But I think there's something really important about being alone for a certain period, because it's easy to get lost in passion or Or like I said, I have friends that like, I'm dating this person. Now I'm a painter. Oh, my new girlfriend's a rock climber. So, I'm a rock climber. It's like, well, okay. But, we're all learning from one another. But it's good to have a moment of solitude every now and then. But I don't know. I'm at the point that people are like, are you okay, Joel? Are you gay and you've never told anybody? Like, you've been alone for a long time. I'm like, well, I'm not necessarily, but.
Well, there's that stigma, though. There's that stigma of.
You should be dating or
you
whatever.
You should be, especially with men. Well, I don't know. Actually, I would say I would go the opposite.
I think it could go both ways.
With women, women are supposed to be kind of married and have kids by 30. Where men, we get a little more leeway, and like it's only when you get to be about like 45-ish, I feel like, where you're like, oh, you're not married yet and don't have kids.
That's probably a true point.
And that's kind of just ingrained in American culture. It's ingrained in a lot of Western culture.
Right.
And I don't know. And it's also just like the way that the modern world is, man. Like, we have birth control, so like we have this illusion of choice of like when you can have kids,
Right.
And you kind of like, it dismisses the point of like what is even the reasoning behind having a family, just because you can choose, is you letting all reason go out of the window,
Or is it our ego trying to have like a little bird running around, a little Joel Davis running around? Because that could be egocentric.
I mean, my ego is definitely involved in that, because I'd be like, man, this world would be a lot better place if there's a bunch of little birds running around.
Well, I would actually agree with you, but most people that say that, I wouldn't agree with you, because there's a lot of single moms out there, and there's a lot of dumbass kids I meet too, and I'm like, okay, is it just the fact that this kid didn't have someone paying attention to him? They just threw an iPad in his face, and that's his education, and now he's like punching someone at Walmart or something. Not to say I go to Walmart, but you see these people and you're like, damn. So if I don't know, I'll probably, when I get my finances a little bit more on lock, I'll probably adopt some like. I'll probably adopt a couple kids.
That's
dog.
another thing too. Like with
but I don't want my own kids. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, with men, if you're gonna have a kid, your finances have to be in order.
They have to.
If you're a woman, If you're a woman, the man's finances have to be in order. Like, don't get knocked up by a broke person.
Some people could definitely pick apart that statement, but as a very basic statement, I agree with that.
Okay.
I'm just trying to play super PC tonight, folks. I had a friend get canceled for a tweet, so I'm kind of like, LOL.
Bro.
I'm just joking.
We don't believe in cancel culture here at all. On the previous
thought this was called...
On the previous podcast, I had 4 women, and I asked them, what do you think about cancel culture? And every single one of them said, that's fucking stupid.
Wow, no shit.
Yeah. Huh. So I think.
So this is Little Bird's Woke Hour. Is that the name of this?
No, dude.
I'm just joking.
I hate the branding of woke.
Well, it was stolen from Black Twitter initially, from what I've seen.
A lot of that shit's been co-opted, and like the idea of woke is that you're. I don't know. I don't like the branding of it. I don't like the term of it, because it's like. It's still dichotomous. You're either asleep.
Oh, it's paradoxical in that sense.
You're asleep or you're awake. And I'm like, no. I think everyone is in a constant state of awakening.
And fluctuation, because we're all in different places in our journey. Even I have homies, dude, that are like dudes that have done hard prison time. And now you talk to them and he's like, I'm a vegan and blah, blah, blah. Everyone changes. And to hold someone accountable of something when they were in a different headspace. I mean, not to say people should really say negative shit and be hurtful, but you gotta allow everyone the opportunity to change, because the only permanence is impermanence. The only thing that we could all guarantee is we're always changing on a cellular level.
Yes.
And that's what's interesting. It's funny. I was gonna start a podcast like my friend Tolly. My homie Brian Robertson, shout out Brian Robertson, one of the best painters I've ever met. You'd love him. He's a wacky dude.
I'll meet him up.
He's a bad dude. He's in LA. Like, they were all trying to convince me to do a podcast, but I was kind of like, man.
Like, you run the podcast?
They wanted to be my podcast, because
they wanted you to host it.
Yeah. Because sometimes, not all the time, but when I'm on, I could really joke and talk to anybody.
Yeah.
When I'm off, it's challenging. And I don't know if that's like a Gemini thing, or I don't know if that's just a story I told myself that I believe. But after seeing how reactionary some people are to like even joking, I was like, nah. So I totally backed away. I was like, I don't want someone to misinterpret some crazy shit that I said 5 years ago, and it ruins me selling a sculpture to some yuppie someday. But then that's a story I'm telling myself too. Something will happen, and the only reality is what happened, but our minds will come up with all these stories.
Well, it's a very interesting part of culture and society, man. This idea of really, I mean, cancel culture, like people, like putting people, giving them no, I don't know, the word's not respect, but like giving them not taking away their platform to say things. And this is why the reason why I'm doing this podcast in this format, you know, is like I want things to be long form conversation. I want people to hear people working through ideas. I don't want it to be like definite thought. So like if you say something, if I say something, it's like, well, that's not a completely formed thought. You can hear the thought forming, and you can hear it in someone's voice,
right?
And where it's like when you add the video to the mix and you add the making it live, you know, it's different. Because people are trying to like come up with the one thing,
and they're probably concerned about how they visually look if they're being filmed or whatever else.
I think it's important for like to allow people to like work through their ideas, work through their thoughts, and hear them formulate. You know,
right?
And realize,
work through it.
You know, like that not everything's definite. You know, it's very important to realize that not things are definite.
Everything's ephemeral.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah. I think. The censorship of ideas is a really dangerous place to be.
Oh yeah. It's tough now because like we live in an age where, I mean, Western culture has made everything very dichotomous, and so
just
there is
polarized in general.
Yeah, there is good and there is evil, and so like, and then we have to add the internet into the mix. So like, for people to say, well, these opinions aren't validated because they spread hate. I'm like, well, it's true. I don't want to hear any hate speak at all.
No, nor do I.
You know, but at what point, I think it really should be left up to people's. The problem is you got a lot of jackasses out there who just like will think, yes, I identify with this because I identify with this one thing. I'm like, well, you're also kind of like, you know,
you're repping a bunch of stuff you might not know.
Yeah, you know, it's like you might rep this one thing that you identify with, but it's also attached to all these other things. So you have to be cognizant and like, okay, even though like I could say, you know, I love pussy jokes, right? What does that say? Does that make me a misogynistic, you know, asshole? No, I think I could describe and defend that like I love pussy jokes because they're fucking funny. You know, but you know, people will come after you and be like, "Well, that's misogynist, and that's not the way the future is going, and like that doesn't represent fucking human,
like an evolutionary perspective."
Yeah. I'm like,
and to some slight capacity, I get that, you know, but I think the battles are weird. Like people get crazy offended about like some tweet that the actress in The Mandalorian says, right, and they're freaking out, right? Like I'm more offended by the fact that drones are killing people in Yemen. I'm more pissed off, and that doesn't even directly affect me.
No.
So, you know, this is another thing. I'm just,
well, the problem
or
is
I'm mad at the prison industrial
yeah.
complex. I'm not mad at some actress says something or some actor says something.
The problem is
so
with the internet, the idea of discussion has gone away. You know, if you know, if you say, I mean, I feel like you and me agree on a lot of shit, but imagine you and me are both polar opposite people.
We can still chill.
And we turn on something that's very divided, something on the TV. You and me would talk about this, and we'd have a discussion, and maybe one of us would storm out of the room and get pissed off or something like that. But at least it would be a better discussion than what happens on the internet.
Agreed. And it's funny watching like troll comments are crazy to me. That's a weird thing. I guess I guess the argument is that people don't feel empowered in their day to day. Like, what did you tell IRL?
Yeah.
I'm so old school. Little Bird tells me IRL, and I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, in real life.
Oh man, I cringe when I say those millennial.
Hey man, I've learned a lot of millennial shit from you, dude. I'm gonna walk up to some kid's sister and be like, hey, what about that Molly Percocet, eh?
Sister. No, like,
no,
man,
I'm just kidding.
I get bummed out when people think I'm not a millennial. I'm like, bitch, I'm a fucking millennial. Don't you dare call me Gen Z. You know.
I think I'm Gen X, right? 1979. I think that's Gen X.
You're like
I'm the Pepsi generation, homie.
You're a young Gen X, yeah.
Interesting. I guess I throw around terms sometimes. I don't even know the actual math behind it.
Well, you're very Gen X, man. You're very postmodern, you know.
I'm not Pomo.
I'm not
Whatever,
Pomo.
homie.
He's like, don't call me that.
Yeah, man. You know what's crazy? The whole COVID thing, it's affected so many of my friends very adversely. But last year, I like totally came up.
Dude, I did too.
People were just kicking down my door for construction and like high-end construction stuff. And also, like, I moved my houses. Now I live really far in the South Valley, which is funny because I grew up there. And when I moved from the South Valley to Denver. Then I traveled for a while, and I came back to Burke, and I was like, yeah, I'll be here a couple years. And that was like 14 years ago. Like, I don't see why I'd leave, honestly. This will always be my home base. I'll probably have a condo or something, and then my little, like, fucking bug-out shack somewhere.
Yeah.
But this is a good home base.
I'm glad you said that, man.
I like it. It's my home base.
Describe Albuquerque's home base.
That's what's up. Yeah, I like it. And you got a cool thing too, your little tiny house. I'm eager to go check that out, and I want to help you.
You're gonna help me build a deck.
Build that deck, yeah. That sounds dope. That's like a 2-day easy, fun beer drinking job. Like we'll get
here 2 days. We're gonna get it done.
Yeah, 8 days later, we gotta go to Lowe's again.
No,
that's
I trust you with your cuts and everything.
Oh, I could rock that shit. That's gonna be my excuse to buy like a big framing nailer, like the big pneumatic gun, because I always put that off. I'm like, that's such a masculine tool. No, it's just a big tool, and I don't do framing, but I've always wanted a framing nailer, so that'll be
Those
my
like
little.
the nail guns that'll fucking kill you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking Roman almost shot me in the eye with one. He's like, hold this, and it's like bang, and it like bounces off my head.
Oh shit.
I'm like, dog. He's like,
it is a very masculine tool.
it's a big gun, bro.
Yeah.
That's my new death metal band. It's called Masculine Tool. Have you heard of us?
It's like it's just Tool, but it's more, you know.
It's that's my new band.
It's just Tool music, but
Yeah.
it's just like way more like.
Oh Jesus. that meme. It's like some kind of character trying to put the like a square peg in like a round hole, and he's like, I know the Pacific. You know that meme? I don't know. Memes are tripping me out, dude. Like I'll find myself scrolling on Insta, and some memes I'll actually screenshot them because they're really kind of pertinent to me, and then some are just ridiculous, and I'm like, wow, this is like a whole realm of millennial conversation is just memes. There's countries in Europe that are trying to ban memes under like hate speech laws and under like fake news, and because they are influential in our whole presidential shit with old Hillary and old Donald Trump. Like there was, I mean, I listened to a Sam Harris podcast that was all about, I can't remember the guest. The whole thing was about these like these Russian troll farms. They'd have like a building with like 1,000 dudes in it,
Just making memes.
and that literally affected stuff here. I'm like, that's trippy. That
Well,
like
it's
these.
propaganda.
Oh yeah, and it's working.
It's rooted in propaganda.
To the dumber amongst us, that is the new currency.
You know what? I've noticed that. I mean, I've been off social media for 4 days now. And just you saying that.
Just saying that sounds
just
trippy.
you saying like, you seen this meme? I'm like, whoa, that's weird. Like, I kind of miss memes, but at the same time, I think that's what really fucked me up with the social media shit though. What was the memes itself? Because as much as like you like, there are, I'm not saying there's good or bad memes. I think a meme is a meme.
A meme is a meme.
But seeing a meme that I'm like, okay, this applies to like maybe because you apply it to different parts of your personality, right?
Okay.
You know, well, this applies to my personal life, or this applies to like what I think about politics, or something like that, or this applies to culture. What would fuck me up was like the memes, and I'm like, you don't even realize you're looking at a meme. You're just looking at something that the algorithm's
giving you,
and you're like, this isn't a meme. This is like something I begin to tell myself. You know, and that happens a lot with the personal memes. You know, I'm like, damn, like I'll notice. I started to notice. I'm like, man, why am I feeling shitty about myself? Then I'd be like scrolling through Instagram, I'm like, there's all these fucking depressing ass fucking shit.
Interesting.
You know, and I'm like, huh. I don't even look at those like memes. I just look at them like it's something that you see every day, and it started to wear on me a little bit. I'm like, this is something I see every day, or this is something that is, you know, it's really not positive at all.
Right. Well, the people that still stare at their phone a lot, and that's even a lot of my homies, and like I'll Instagram when I'm like taking a poop in the morning. or like I have a break and I catch myself and I'm like, what would I do before this? I'd probably be more in the present moment. Oh, yeah. And what's interesting, I was having a discussion with my sister a few days ago about the whole phone thing. I was at a dinner and everyone's on their phone except me, and I was looking around like, fuck all you guys. It felt like the energy in the space downshifted, and subconsciously people pulling out their phone when there's real IRL humans around them. It literally means it's putting out the vibe like, you're not important to me at this moment.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I'm just taking a break. But it's like the phone is like junk food for our mind. It's a trip. Like I catch myself. I catch everybody. That fool that was driving through traffic, he merged 2.5 lanes looking at his goddamn Facebook.
Yeah.
Which is just an echo chamber of his own opinions, because these algorithms are like, like if you're a Trumper, it's going to be like, yeah, Trump.
QN.
You're going to get QN and all this bullshit. And you see stuff that's agreeable to you. And there's documentaries now that like, these guys that used to work on developing Facebook are like, oh, dude, destroy your phone, quit doing this, because it's just this weird echo chamber of like, it's like you have 10 hype men, you're like Cypress Hill, but you have 10 hype men that are like, motherfucking Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, that was loud. You know what I mean? It's an echo chamber.
I've watched those.
Mine is all fucking animals and like graffiti, and I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but
it's weird how you like that steers your personality now.
I got a good one for you. You know what I've been doing the last couple years? Is I will tell the algorithm that I'm female or trans, and I'll look up like crazy Republican shit, and then I'll look up like QAnon shit, and then I'll look up like crazy like Immortal Technique, and it confuses the algorithm. I think they'll catch me soon, but I've confused the algorithm because my searches, I'll purposefully look into stuff that I don't like. It's just to confuse. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe one of my tech savvy friends could holler at me after they hear this, but I'm attempting to confuse the algorithm.
Yeah, that attempt, like I think I tried to do that honestly, and I think that's what fucked me up this last time is that because I would do that too, and
Zuckerberg's revenge.
I don't know what it is. It's like what I realized when you mentioned with the eating at dinner thing.
Yeah.
I would notice that like. I can't eat unless I'm watching a YouTube video. I'm like, this is kind of weird.
Oh, that's trippy.
This is fucked up. Like,
bro, I drink my coffee in the mornings to some YouTube stuff. It's usually like The Mandalorian.
Yeah. This is like, I begin to think like, this is like, it's not just a psychological thing. It becomes a physical thing.
Oh, it's physiological.
Like, I can't start eating until I have a YouTube video on. And I'm like, that's not good, man. That's obviously not good. So like this purge that I'm trying to do from social media is, very much like I'm so aware of like I was just with Lum and Path down at Sister now.
Yeah.
Since I haven't had my phone, I'd be like, oh man, like I don't really care. Like if someone's messaging me, that's different. But like I'm not checking social media, I'm
right.
Not, and then the worst part is like people like you begin to like interact with people in real life. And you're like, oh yeah, did you see someone so posted this? And you're like, it's a weird little click.
A whole different thing. It's
a weird little click. You're like, I didn't see that so-and-so posted this. But I didn't feel out of the loop. I felt like more or less that's like another world, It's a whole nother world, but I'm living more or less in this one. And what's actually weird about it is it makes reality even stranger. And it does make you feel like, well, am I really like in this? Is this how you're supposed to feel inward with yourself? Are you supposed to be attached to this thing? That's a weird concept that comes up.
I've thought about this before at great length, and like I said earlier, I was forced to get an Instagram account because 111 Minna.
How long ago?
5
years
ago, maybe 4.
Max Baptiste was like, yo,
he forced me. Well, actually 111 Minna was like, yo, this guy's like, I mean, not the headliner, but he's one of these mini artists that you're trying to like rep for this show, and he doesn't have anything we could look at or show. It's paradoxical because half the time it's junk food, maybe 3/4 of the time it's junk food for me, for my mind. But I've also I've met and talked to some artists that are actually really prolific, like famous people that will DM me sometimes. I mean, I could name, dude, I literally talk to my favorite artist of all time every now and then, and it's just like, oh my God, holy shit. I would have never met him unless I was in New York or Brazil, but yet he hit me up because of my work,
Yeah.
and he would have never seen it unless this electronic dissemination of information put into the galaxy, but then
But is it true connection
but
or
is
is it
that
an
it?
illusion of connection? You know?
It's like fist bumping someone at a hip hop show, like, yo, what up? It's good to see you. Like, fuck yeah, your work's good. You're killing it. Are you still killing it? But I guess for me, I wouldn't say I fanboyed out, and I'm not gonna name drop who it is, but it's a bad motherfucker. But I was like, wow, this is someone I never would have had this interaction with. But on the other end, I don't know. It's just a tool. Like, I'm trying to use I think what I need probably is just like to actually finally buckle down and build my website.
But it's a weird tool though, man, because like 20 years ago, not even really that long ago.
Yeah.
Not even really that long ago, that would not have been possible.
Not a chance.
So I don't think our psyche has evolved. We're in like a real test phase of this thing,
Humans probably aren't meant to interact with thousands of people on a
we're
fake
meant
way.
to interact with a
Tribes.
small tribe of people, or a small community of people.
Yeah.
I mean, we have adapted to interact with society as a grander scale and bigger thing.
Right.
Yes, but like in our interpersonal lives and relationships, I think we're really only meant to interact with maybe like 20 to 30 people.
Think about the dating apps. Like, I've never done any of that shit, and I have some friends who are like, yo, check this out. But like swiping left or right is very dismissive. You're hot. You're not. You're not. You're not. You're hot. You're hot. I'm like, yo, I've never done that.
I could never do it.
I would probably have more of an active dating life if I did do that. But it seems so weird and disingenuous. And all of my close female friends that have told me about like dudes creeping out on them. Oh, he looked like a nice guy. I'm like, dude, I could make a profile making me look like a Black Panther, a white supremacist. You could make this nom de plume, this fake projection of yourself while concealing your shadow self. I don't know if I articulated that right, but it's fake.
I get you.
It's kind of fake. If social media accounts were totally accurate, I mean, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, and then it bleeds over into your real life because then you have to like maintain who you are.
Oh, like a personification.
Yeah, that's weird.
Huh.
And yeah, man, like I didn't think we were gonna be talking about this, honestly.
Yeah, neither did I.
But
I was gonna go on an hour-long chemtrail rant. I'm glad you cut me off, dog.
But it is curious, man, because I'm going through this social media purge, and for me, it's really kind of scary because, I mean, I attribute majority of my success last year to social media. But
for sure,
But
it's helped
sometimes,
you
like it feels
quite a bit.
Even that, it's like there's an asterisk on it. I'm like, oh, you sold all these paintings, but because of social media. But asterisk again, that's a tool, and you should be using that. And I'm like thinking now that I don't have it. I'm like, well, I'm not using this tool. Am I stupid for not using this tool? I wish there was a better way to get things out into the world. And it's the worst time to not be using social media.
Agreed.
Because there's no galleries open. And
I was about
the
to
old
say
school way of getting it.
the gallery. And when we were at yoga the other day, Casey and I were reminiscing a bit. Like, we literally had a gallery show like 16 years ago or 17. I don't even remember the date. But I'm like, wow, that was so long ago. I think that's a dated way to sell art. And I have homies that own galleries. You do. I mean, I love it. I love going to art shows.
It's
but it's like,
dated, though.
Is this COVID shit going to change all that? I mean, I don't want to have to show someone an RFID chip to walk into a gallery to big up my homie's show. Yeah. But also, I've done a lot of DIY shows, and it's like, how many times, well, even Relic, when Relic was popping, it was the spot to go to on certain nights. And maybe we'd sell maybe a couple prints. Yeah. But we hosted like 200 people every month. And it's cool, but we're providing like an outlet for artists to communicate,
that social aspect,
and talk to one another. Yeah. And that's why I used to love all the punk rock shit that Thomas and I did at Stove back in the day, because it was a music venue, but it was also like a fine art, well, asterisks, air quotes, fine art. It was more lowbrow shit. But through that experience of Stove, I think that was 13 years ago.
So social media was barely a thing at that point.
Barely starting. I think I had a flip phone. I don't remember. But through that, I mean, a lot of young kids that are now adults started repping their first shows there, and they built confidence in showing art. And I always think art should be engaged with personally, but I think it's changed how it should be sold, and I don't know
how it should be sold, not necessarily viewed, but sold.
But sold. I want to maybe start just doing like talking to more architects and more builders and sort of melding the mosaic work and the sculptural stuff into the buildings as an art.
Yeah.
But that's just I'm and you and I need to go back and forth on this because.
But like I guess it's media though too. You know, if you're going to be a successful artist you almost have to become really, and this is where like I kind of bugged out because like I went to school for media. I learned I know how to make photos look good. I know what good video looks like.
Right.
And so for me, like, no brainer. It's easy for me to create a presence online that like makes those things look good.
You're really good at it too.
But at the same time, I'm like, you know, like, is my work really that good, or do I just know how to present it very well on this platform of social media?
Well, it's a little
because I know all the tricks. I know how, you know, and then I'm just like, you go back and forth. Do people really connect with the work? And, you know, like I would tell myself all the time, like, I don't give a fuck if people connect with the work. I just like fucking making it. You know, I really don't fucking care. You know,
giving a fuck is a good thing though.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But when you start to think about like, well, why am I having any kind of success in it? Is it because of these other aspects? You know, would I have the same success 13 years ago when social media wasn't a thing?
Probably not to the same extent, because what would happen every few every few months you might have an opening and there's a keg of beer there and all the cool people show up and it's cool. Oh, I haven't seen Jody in a while. Oh, Todd, fucking Thomas. Oh, Little Bird. We see all the heads. But how many people buy that day? I mean, a few days later, some of the actual collectors will, from what I've seen, try to get a deal under the table, you know. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've only seen you as an artist since this has existed.
Yeah.
I'm from the era where we're stapling up flyers on telephone poles. Me and Cyrus or me and Thomas or whoever, like we would walk all over Burke just putting up like these dumb flyers. And now the flyers people view as an art piece. Like, oh, that's so archival. I'm like, dude. It's like it's like we're inscribing stone tablets. I have a big old beard like Gandalf.
Yeah.
Let me put this papyrus flyer up, kids. You know,
but
it's silly.
Do we romanticize that era though? Because like maybe now it's easier, but is it better?
I don't know. You know, I'm still trying to figure out even how I plug into it. I mean, one of my good friends literally almost like physically confronted me because my website still looks like shit. But, you know, I bought the MacBook Pro. I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I haven't done it yet. So that's why I'm going to trade you soon to rephotograph some of my work. Because I have a huge portfolio, but it's all these kind of crappy photos. And it's funny. Documentation is a big part of it. And I was talking to Tolly about his father, Fred Wilson, who was my first mentor, who's the head of the African American Artists Guild, and just a cool dude, just an OG veterano, cool old dude.
Yeah.
He made more work than anyone I've ever met. He was prolific. 100,000 pieces maybe. I've made maybe 1,000. You know, and that's a lot. But he's so old school. He's in the 70s. Like, there's a few snapshots. So Tolly's trying to go back and re-archive this super prolific person's work. So it's like almost the documentation is equally as valid as the work, and that's why you kind of have this shit on lock. Every piece you make, I'll see a photo of it, or I'll see it in person and have a photo, or you'll have a funny Instagram post about it, or you know what I mean? I think you're kind of the culmination of a lot of things that I'm lacking.
I mean, I did go to art school. And the things that
really? Dude, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. I'm leaving the podcast right now.
I dropped out of art school.
Yeah,
but
redemption.
What I learned, you know, in art studio in the classes, they don't teach you about documentation of your work. They really don't.
That's surprising to me.
They don't really teach you about documentation of your work. At least the art school and the classes that I took. I had to learn about documentation, almost just like what you said. What happens when there's the lack of it, you know? You know, because like there's so much work that I've never documented, but I'm more or less conscious of like this has to be down to the process of it has to be documented. And I think that's where most of the public connects with stuff. They'll connect with process.
Well, and that's their a bit. Well, that's when they could actually see it. The public's not in our studio, or like you and I have a pretty tight knit crew.
Yeah,
they're not privy to seeing the process unless you give them the ability to see it.
Yeah.
Via photography or social media. Was that where you're going? Sorry,
Well, I mean, like even at the same time, I don't think art is completely process, but I really did have to learn about documentation from art history.
Okay.
And so in that, when you think about art history, I mean, this is some ego stuff, but it comes into like, you have to really believe that like, hey,
this is valid.
I am Michelangelo. And if no one's showing what I'm doing, then no one's ever going to know about it. So what am I even doing it for? I respect people that are doing shit just for themselves.
Right.
But if no one knows about it, like, I mean, you think about one of my most favorite artists of all time, Jay Dilla.
Okay. Oh, no shit. Yeah. Jay Dilla's ill.
For sure.
I listened to his instrumental last weekend. I was bumping it.
Yeah.
One of his many, actually.
Yeah. An amazing artist. And what's interesting about Jay Dilla is like a lot of the documentaries that you'll see, there isn't a lot of documentation of his process. Do you know where the documentation of his process comes from? It comes from oral. It comes from people talking about his work.
And the oral tradition is your people's shit that's getting disappeared.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And that's another reason for doing the podcast, man. So this is going to be, people talking. It's going to be recorded somewhere.
Right.
And like in my tradition, if you wanted to hear a story, you had to go to the guy that told the story.
Right.
And then you had to remember it based on memory. And then if you forgot any little bit of it, you had to listen to it again. You had to go to him again and listen to it. So, and the thing with Jay Dilla that I've noticed about bringing it back to Jay Dilla, is that all the documentaries I've watched on him, there's photos and stuff, but there's not a lot of video of him working, There's really not that much compared to like, especially nowadays where everything is documented. Everything is, and it's, there's something where I want to find that balance of yes, you have to document your process, but there's something about mystery too. There really is something about mystery,
the allure of doom in a way was, this personification that he came up with,
Well, and as artists, you get to pick and choose what you are showing to people.
Yeah, I've kind of had to learn that too. I feel like I kind of wore my heart on my sleeve in the past.
Me too, man.
And now I'm pretty reluctant. Like I've had some people straight up rip off my ideas because I was riffing with them. We're drinking, smoking blunts. I'm like, oh, what about this crazy idea? And the next thing I know, it's in some museum or like Meow Wolf not Meow Wolf, but you know what I'm saying? It's some hipsters doing it. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm kind of like, I don't know. And again, I'm almost going to quote a meme here. It was something like things to not talk about. Like show people, I can't remember the meme, but the point of it was like, show people your results. Don't tell them what you're planning. I'm kind of like, man, like I consider you crew, Tolly, like I'm lucky. I have like a tight crew of good artists that are fam. I could riff with them, but that's it. I feel like if my words are spells, I'm casting spells instead of putting it inward and then just making the work. And we've all done that, and this is just things I'm kind of figuring out now. But if that could help younger people, I'd be stoked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's an Art Thoughts video about personal mythology.
Oh, cool! I haven't seen that one.
And he uses Joseph Beuys as the example. And I mean, personal mythology and Joseph Beuys, two things. When a lot of this stuff's pretty inherent that I think my dad taught me a lot of, and my mom. But like to actually like make it more academic and like study how artists go about building this personal mythology about themselves, and even MF Doom and Kanye to an extent. You got to have these to be a successful artist. You have to bend the truth a lot, and then you have to fully fucking believe in it. There's another meme, Seinfeld, Costanza.
Wow.
When he's trying to pass, when he tells Jerry about passing the polygraph, he's like, "It's only a lie if you don't believe in it." So like, you kind of have to do that with yourself. And, I mean, I'm not going out saying like, you know, like I was shot 4 times and that's why I make art.
Yeah, you're
but
like
you know, you have to
Jesse 50 Cent Little Bird.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
You have to kind of, you have to
son.
go out and be like, the number one thing I get asked about all the time, and I'm like, yo, that was a terrible, I feel like real sloppy in it, and I shouldn't even have done this personal mythology, but like the fire thing, the flame thing, I get asked.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing I get asked about. And I don't think, I really try not to explain myself in it. I'm just like, here, like, you know, fire is fire. It's an element in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an artist. I use elements in the world. Boom. That's as simple as I can put it down to. But then we're like, well, why do you do this? What does it mean? Blah, 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 blah. And so people don't know, but every single time I've answered that question, I've told a different lie every time. So, you know.
That's kind of cool. It's like folklore at a certain point.
Yeah.
Like 20 years from now, because you're already prolific and you're on that path. 20 years from now, people be like, well, he told me that. What the fuck? That's not real.
Yeah, that's fun. Like, why do we have to, you know, there's this idea of truth within art, but I think there's more room to be an artist when you don't have that, you know, absolute truth.
Is that why your father dressed up as the coyote, the trickster at your show to some extent, maybe?
I mean, I actually never.
I just came up with that
That was
now,
very
but-
interesting because that was a year ago. That was a year ago that happened.
Yep.
That show. I mean, of all things that people have ever asked me, I was pretty bummed out that no one really talked to me about that show a lot, because I think that show, of all the work that I've ever done, is the most heart I've ever put into something.
Oh, wow.
Just because of the time of life I was going through. My dad had been diagnosed with cancer. He was going through his treatment at that time. So there was a lot of, I mean, death is a very prevalent aspect in all my work.
That's true.
But like at that time, it was very, very prevalent. In so many different ways, not just in like death of like losing someone and death as eternal and all these kind of things, but like death is like a concept of like, what is the act of death of doing it to yourself? What is the act of death of doing it to someone else? What is the death of ego? What is the death of relationship?
Meat
all
consumption,
these things, all kinds
everything.
of stuff. And what was interesting was like I had that piece at that show that I titled "To Prevent Illness."
Yeah.
And then
I know that
a month later, COVID hits, you know. But specifically to answer your question about my dad with the coyote shit, was a lot of my very first childhood memories of being in an artistic realm was my parents ran a theater group called Coyote Gathers His People.
Oh, wow.
And my dad led it through with a bunch of other very legendary, they're almost all gone now, Native American elders, going through oral traditions, and they all had these costumes.
Oh, fresh.
And they all everyone made their own costume.
Of course.
And they're really, really cool. But Gene Tagaban, who was part of that, I posted a video on Facebook where he actually was doing one of my dad's stories.
Was that in Santa Fe? No. Was that video you posted? Or?
This was in
or Sovereign or whatever?
It was in Seattle.
Or Fahrenheit. Oh, okay, that was different.
No, this is a different thing. Gene Tagaban telling one of my dad's stories to the Dalai Lama.
Oh, yes.
So, but it was really just rooted in like oral tradition. And I remember thinking like, okay, as a kid, I was like, okay, this is my introduction to art. And like I tell in all my interviews, I was like, you know, like when you grow up and your parents are artists, you have a whole different type of pressure, you know. It's not like you have a pressure to be the Buddha of art, you know. You know, people would tell me, my parents, that like, oh, he's the next Buddha and shit. Like, fuck, I don't want that kind of pressure, you know. I just want to be a fucking human being. And I often do think about it, like, I don't want to do art anymore. I don't all the fucking time, you know. I'm as sure as you do as well.
Oh yeah, sometimes I second guess it.
But yeah, so like with that show coming back, it was very important for me to have my dad there, going through his treatment, for a show that like I should have titled it To Prevent Illness, but I'd call it Coyote because it was a little more, I don't know, it's catchy. People like animals, man.
Well,
you know?
It's funny, man. I've had so many shows that in my mind were still are pretty prolific, and I didn't sell a single thing. I probably have 30 of those.
Yeah.
Now I don't care, but at the time I'd be like, and I don't know if you sold or not. I'm just taking my own perspective on it. Just like,
well, you think
why did I
about like
put
why
all
was
this
the show
out?
successful? I've been asking that to everyone now, especially people doing pop-ups and events during
the
COVID,
journey
during
is the
COVID.
destination, but it takes a while to realize that like just the action, just pulling the sword, just painting the thing, that's what it means. That's it.
How do you?
But
in all the shows that you've had, what is the feeling you have? It's like I mean, most of the times when it's the end of the night, we're all gonna go party.
Yeah, totally.
But like, there's definitely a point in the night where it's the end of the night, and you're thinking about how did tonight go. Like what is your feeling? Do you have a sense of success? Have you had a sense of?
Oh yeah, I've sold a few pieces, but it's not even that. I think, and this is what I miss due to this whole COVID isolationist stuff. At certain shows, I'll reconnect and have deep conversations with like-minded artistic people that I may have not seen in a year, or like an old friend, or like. But sometimes, as you know, it's overwhelming. Sometimes I'll have like 8 people all drunk trying to talk to me at the same time, and I'm like, It's like, yo, I just wanted to talk to that girl over there about her art, and all these crazy drunk dudes like, dude, sculptures, and that's cool. I'm very happy, but it comes to a point where that's overwhelming. Sometimes at Relic, I felt socially overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But what the fuck? I know like 80 people in one spot, and everyone's happy to see each other. That's beautiful.
It's tough, man.
But knowing how to navigate that and not offend people, or like, I don't know, like that's kind of a tangential perspective. But I guess the success comes from showing people who have paid attention to my progress and work, like a new body of work. And people are like, damn, whoa, this is crazy. Or I had some dude I didn't know arguing with his partner that one of my pieces was cut out of a CNC machine. They were going back and forth. There's no way. And that was just funny to me. Yeah, they didn't know it was me as the artist. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I'm not going to say I'm the artist. I just thought that was kind of cool,
Yeah, I've spoken to artists, and I think I've heard that a lot, that like we kind of like the fly on the wall. We kind of like we just want to hear what people think that we don't know. Think about shit. And I mean,
especially non-artists.
Definitely.
I mean, everyone's kind of an artist, but hearing non-artists' perspective on work has been very intriguing to me. See, I'm in a weird place. I pick things apart technically first, aesthetically second, and then narrative third. A lot of people are opposite.
Yeah,
and I like that approach. That's just always been me.
Technically first.
Yeah, if it's technically precise, I'm like, okay.
That's why I like my shit. My shit's not technical at all.
I'm not sure, actually.
My shit, I got. My lines are not clean.
Maybe because it's kind of the opposite of what I do in a regard. I don't know. I like most of your work.
Well, I remember it wasn't actually at a show, but it was at one of our warehouse parties at Old Rocky Spot, and that's where I actually felt extremely validated. I remember you, Cappy, and TCH showed up.
Oh yeah, I remember that night. Yeah,
and I was gone.
Well, you're hosting an event, and it was emotionally a challenging night for a lot of people.
I was drunk and but I remember you, TCH, and David all were really giving me not just fluff.
No, I wasn't some little Carino shit. It was
it was and I felt I remember that. Honestly, that night gave me so much confidence in my art.
Oh, that's great.
And validation, more or less, a validation of okay, you know what, maybe
cool.
You got something here that at least these 3 people,
right.
They might not and I could tell more or less it's it's not full on. It's not about just when someone likes your art purely for the aesthetics.
Yes.
And that kind of compliment doesn't hit as much. It's you want that compliment of I see you, I appreciate what you're doing, and it looks good at the same time. And I appreciate your hustle and your drive.
And the way you carry yourself too. I mean, and that night in particular, I remember that was one of our first actual in-depth conversations. And I mean, Thomas is an interesting character, but I remember when I was hosting art parties and stuff, it's overwhelming. You're like, there's 100 people in my spot. I'm trying to, talk to everybody. I'm trying to hold it down. And then what's funny, well, it's not funny because you had that similar situation that night, but I had like my ex show up and it was all awkward. And like the whole night I was like, fuck, and at the end of the night, you're by yourself in your space and you're like, was this a success or not? I don't know. But then I'll reflect upon those few conversations I had that, that were encouraging or that were beneficial. And I just remember like, I told you something. I was like, yo, I'll keep my eyes out too. Like when there's that many people around, you just got to have a few good homies to pay attention.
I had to, we only had like a couple parties. I think 4 or 5 parties there.
Something like that.
But every single time I had to kick somebody out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I missed that. I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah.
It's been a while though. Was that the same night that we talked? Was that Jody Herrera's after party? She had some opening, or was it her birthday? I don't know.
Dude, they all blended together.
They all blend together. Yeah, and they all do, man. It's just one big blender of like Tecates, Modelos, blunts, and art, like years and years.
Shots.
Yeah, I don't fuck with shots, thankfully.
I'm glad I'm not like that anymore, but I used to just I'd find a tequila bottle and just make people take shots, and I would take.
Oh, damn, really?
Yeah.
Woo! That's what the dude, I can't remember his name right now, but the dude who the cop shot at Joe's. What the fuck was his name? He worked at Joe's.
Yeah, the guy that got shot. Yeah.
I mean, like my friends were friends with him, but didn't know him that well. But if you ordered a shot, he would like match you, and he was bartending. I'm like, oh, this dude's real deal. Holy shit. I kind of like that, but it's funny I can't remember his name. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Warehouse parties, man.
Yeah, I've done a lot, man. The COVID thing's been interesting. I'm really good alone. But what
grab you another beer.
Oh yeah, would you? You read my mind, bro.
You can keep talking. I hear you.
I'm trying to think. The COVID thing, what was I saying? Yeah, at the studio, you and I had basically a warehouse to ourselves for like 6 months. No one would show up except for you and me. Like we put in work at that spot, man. And thank you. And like Phil would show up every now and then and do work, but the day-to-day was you and I, which was pretty cool. And I think that we really got to know each other pretty well during that period. You'd like, remember what you walked over, we had this torrential downpour.
Dude, that was a beautiful
And
day.
you gave me a joint, and we were just like in the building, it's just dumping. And we're just like talking shit like that.
Just listening to the rain
That was
fall
a
on the fucking roof and shit.
On the metal roof. That's a beautiful spot, man. I wish I could. I pitched it to a few rich people about like this could be an Albuquerque hub. I could be the David Cudney of the space, quote unquote, like the guy who holds it down. But things just happen as they happen, and I'm really happy that I have a different art space. But damn, that building's fire. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think I really, and I think that's probably where I'm at now. And I really do hate looking at life in terms of years, but like. It's difficult because we're stuck in it. But like in 2020, I think that space really saved me in a way, having a place to go to every day and gave me a routine that I needed, and I think that's why I was there so much, because I would go there when I didn't even want to go there. I made it such a routine that like I had to be there, and because I didn't want to be, with my roommate, I sat on the couch for maybe a week when quarantine hit, and I was just like, if we're all going to die, if all this shit's really saying we're watching them tell us what's going to happen while we're sitting here, I don't want to sit here and do that.
Not a chance. Me neither.
I want to be somewhere else, I
want to be making love, making art.
Exactly.
Cracking jokes.
I want to be doing all those things, I'm not going to sit here and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they canceled fucking Friends on Netflix, or like I hate Friends before the record.
Or people, me neither.
All that shit. Like I don't care about like, oh, have you seen this show? I didn't care about that, and in a sense,
unless
that space really saved me, and that I had a place to go to, and it really became a sanctuary and a solitude place to be, but also like a place where I'm like, well, my interaction is going to be with other artists that are probably going through similar things.
Totally. That was a weird. I mean, I came up last year, but it was challenging too. I had a few interpersonal relationship issues manifest, and there was a period where I had no money. Right now, I'm killing it. I have plenty of money, but the beginning of COVID, I had zero money. People were trying to break into my spot. I got into a fight with a heroin dealer in my neighborhood. And now what's hilarious, I mean, I knew they weren't bangers, so I could flex on them a little bit because they were leaving needles everywhere and shit. But I wasn't sleeping. This is crazy, everybody. I went crazy because I didn't sleep for like 2 months.
I remember that.
You saw me. David Cappy was like, dude, I'm scared. I'm like, dude, I'm scared. I've tried to eat Xanax. I can't sleep. I'm cool now. I sleep great. But during that period, like, it was scary. For your health. It was scary, dude. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think my friend Andrea said it was probably like my thyroid was kicking all crazy, and it's something about like, you know, I couldn't let my guard down because in my neighborhood and at my art studio,
high stress all the time.
Right, and then that made me understand. Like, I have friends that have been soldiers, and I have a friend from Africa who told me these just crazy stories, and he kind of can't chill out. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, so. I'm not comparing myself to people who have been in combat situations by any means or measure, but it gave me an understanding of that angsty, always on point, and especially because I'm kind of like psychic or whatever. Yeah, it was too much.
You're intuitive, you're empath. Yeah, it
was too much for me to take, and I can't remember. There was a hidden track on one of A$AP Rock's, I think on Labor Day. No, I don't remember the CD, but if the CD ends and like 30 minutes later, this hidden track pops off, and he's talking about sometimes like your brain just can't handle it.
I love how you throw these hip hop tracks in here every now and then. You got like one for everything.
This is funny. I was in Central Valley, California, like by Yosemite. Yeah. My cousin has a venue spot called Bandit Town, and I was out there working, building roofs and decks and shit. And it's funny, I was like the only, I'm not saying I'm hip hop, but I love fucking hip hop. I was the only dude that into that shit at all. And we were at some cowboy bar, and all these people doing karaoke, like guitars and Cadillacs. Mm-hmm. And I came up, I was like, yo, do track 2 of the Wu-Tang Double album. And they're like, what's that? I was like, just YouTube it. And I did karaoke, I did every MC, and right now I could almost do it, but I'd probably forget. But I did all of it, and people were just like, it's like the record stopped. Like, all these cowboys are like, what the fuck? I'm like, reunited, double LP, world excited, struck a match to the underground, industry ignited. Oh no, it was exciting moment in my life. Man. And my cousin filmed it, but I think he deleted it, which is too bad, because that would have been a funny Instagram hit. I would have got 1,000 likes. My peers would like that.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. Well, I mean, I just want to say, man, I'm glad you're doing the cold dips now too, because I definitely see a change in you for sure.
Really?
Like, yeah, I do, and I think you need to keep up with it and keep doing it
every Thursday.
We did that. Yeah, well, I want to go again Thursday.
I'm glad you're joining us, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've talked about this in the podcast, Jesse, but
probably not.
My friend Casey. Well, Jesse's been doing it for a while, and interrupt me anytime here, but he's been jumping in ice cold rivers for as long as he can do it. And he was like, yo, you got to do this, Wim Hof, and there's science behind this. But my friend Casey, again, coming back to him, shout out Casey War.
We talk about Casey a lot tonight.
He's a G, man. He has to come on the podcast.
Yeah, we do.
He'll be like, I don't know.
No, I mean, Casey's such a personality. I think you do fine.
Oh, he's a G, man. The man of steel.
How do you feel right now? Like,
I never answered how I met him. That's way back. We've already 10 topics, man.
Yeah, we'd be going off a couple.
Let me conclude that one. He was my, I wouldn't say art crush, but when I moved back from Denver, I went to RB Winnings. That's when it was RB Winnings, not just Winnings. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there, and I just saw this weirdo dude in Carhartts and shit. And that's how I met Mike Day too, my other best friend. I'm lucky I have some good best friends. Mike Day he's a guitar player for Tenderizer currently and a plumber, bad motherfucker. But Casey was I just kind of found out some of his, like, I saw his work, and then I met him, and I kind of like forced him. I was like, yo, we need to collaborate someday. He's like, who are you? And then we ended up doing like steel and tile collaborations that were actually, even by today's standards, pretty fire. And we did the New Mexico Arts and Crafts Festival, 16 years ago. I don't even remember. But yeah, we just hit it off really well, and we both have a work ethic.
Yeah. And then he's recently turned you on to all this health stuff.
Bro, yeah, he was really injured, and he did the hot yoga certification, and it changed his life. And about a year and a half ago, he was kind of like, dude, you need to do yoga. Because I've had a lot of injuries. Like, I've had a lot of pretty bad back and neck and shoulders, knees, whatever. And now I feel I don't feel 100, but I feel great.
Yeah.
Just through yoga, and then we started doing the cold plunges. So we literally broke the ice on his big pool. We broke the ice the first time.
Yes.
And he was just like, okay, jump in. And he was like, who wants to go first? And I was like, you know what? The first time I did DMT, it was a whole group of homies. I was like, fuck it, I'll do it first. And I'm glad I did, because it didn't, I wanted to have my own perception of it and not see other people's actions, because that would flavor my interpretation of it, perhaps. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So
man.
I wanted
feel
to
like
jump in first.
Yeah, I like that.
It was very important.
I think most things that you're scared of is because of what other people's perception of things, and you like attach yourself to the fear aspect, or you attach yourself to the good things, you know.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
I was terrified of the cold plunge. I've had friends. Actually, my friend Brian Watson. He's a Native American cat. You'll meet him. He grew up in Shiprock. He's a Navajo dude, and he said he'd lay out. His parents would like throw him out in the snow when he was a kid. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's some normal
that's what
shit.
I did as a kid too, man.
That's cool. I think that, I know that Americans could gain from Native knowledge. Obviously,
it's weird, man, because like with the cold plunges, it's like once you've done them, you're like, why haven't I not been doing
dude?
this?
Now I kind of lust after it. Next week we're gonna do it in isolation, which I think is cool. That's Casey's idea.
That's what I like about Casey. Just talking a little bit about my experience Thursday, was I've mostly been cold plunging with Eric.
Yes.
And I love Eric, but like there's the aspect of is like he still has a little bit of fear about like doing it, and so like I feel like I'm not pushed, and then but Eric has always told me he doesn't need that competition as well, but being with Casey and with you guys, I was like, oh, I have this like competition, and like I kind of like I need that, but then at the same time I check myself with them like, oh, you don't need that, because that's ego part. And then when you shiver, it's creeping up and you tell you like, hey man,
Interesting.
You're not shit, man. You don't have this. You don't fucking kill that shit.
That's interesting, because you said you're inherently competitive.
Yeah.
I think because I'm not at all, and I probably should be more. As weird as that sounds, like
we were talking a little bit about this.
Yeah, I don't know if that I haven't completed that thought in my brain yet, but
did someone tell you that, or do you really think that?
No, I really think it. And I had an artist friend a few years ago. He was just kind of busting my balls, and I was like, okay, well, let's fucking battle. He's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, bro, if we take it to graffiti, let's do a graffiti battle, but with sculptural pieces. Mm-hmm. We each have 2 pallets and some nails. Let's do it. And he's like, well, that's unfair because you have more experience. And I was like, well, then quit talking shit. You just answered the question.
Boom, yeah.
And that's a weird thing. I feel egoic telling that story.
But no,
but I'm also
at the
like,
same time,
I had to
though,
flex.
When I hear that, at the same time, you're giving him an opportunity to prove himself. And I have no problem with that, because I love it when I don't. Maybe that's the thing that I do love about competition is like I love proving myself.
Interesting.
I'll go up against people who I know are way more talented, way more skilled than me. I will fucking like be a little nagging dog at your fucking heels just so you'll come and check me. I want that opportunity.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's
I want
cool.
that opportunity to prove myself up against you. And at the same time, with people who I know who aren't to the level of me, I want them to check me and be like, put me in my place and show me that like they did something better than me.
A lot of people have a lot of experiences that we don't have.
Yeah.
And that's what's funny about the cancel shit. To take it back, like, I don't know the shoes someone walked in. Mm-hmm. I heard an interesting quote the other day. I think this was in the Ifa tradition, which is parts of a Cuban religion. Mm-hmm. Let me think if I could remember this. He says, the footprints of a priest are the same as a thief. It's just footprints. You don't know. You don't know. And it's kind of it's not like a Zen koan, but it gives you something to think about. You're like, huh. The footprints are all just the same. It's kind of like the actions and the things you don't see, perhaps, or
those underlying traumas and underlying things that people do in their day-to-day life that we don't even know about.
Totally. Mm-hmm. And that's why I don't know. I mean, I think that the camps were gone for the most part when you first started renting at our studio, but there was a period where there was like a big ass homeless camp. Mm-hmm. And at first they were like kind of scared that Flux and I were there. And then we were like, no, what's up, man? And we started kicking it. And I'd go there I'd buy them pizza and beer, and I wouldn't just give it to them. I'd go kick it with them because people want to feel like fucking people, you know?
Oh yeah, man.
I could only imagine. And you know, we passed out food that one day, Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But it's like people want to be people, and every time they'd set up a little camp, APD would make them kick it, get out. But then the double-edged sword of that, and this is a crazy story. I had a friend named Randy. He was a black gentleman, and he wanted us to call him Moreno, and I guess that's somewhat derogatory.
Down in Mexico.
Yeah, because he was in jail in Mexico. Is where they gave him that name. So I'd always call him Randy. I wouldn't call him Moreno. But he would show up every fucking day at the studio, and I'd be working and be like, Joe, give me a 40. Like, I was like, fuck, man. And when I had money, I'd be down. But it kind of got like annoying. And then we found out that he and some other guy, and you know, this might be some racist shit because the cops might have set him up or something, but supposedly him and some other homeless dude killed another homeless dude like close to our studio, and they cut him up and they tried to burn him.
Oh shit.
And they got caught. But then he got incarcerated, and then somehow he got let out, and then someone murked him. So he died. Someone killed him. So, like, this is a dude I kicked it with.
Randy died.
I kicked it with this dude 100 times. Whenever I had money, you know, I'd kick it with him. I'd drink a 6-pack with him or whatever. But I'm like, my spider sense did not go off with him. I did not feel a threat. So I'm like, did someone... Oh, it was a black guy. You know, did he get framed? Or was my interpretation of a person's energy that off that I couldn't tell that he was a murderer? That's one I've been thinking about because my spider sense is pretty good. I meet some pretty crazy dudes, and I'm like, oh, this dude's not to be trusted. This dude is.
So he's in jail right now.
No, he's dead.
He's dead.
So that's what's weird. So he got locked up for this, like trying to burn the body or whatever. Him and some other homeless dude, and then he got out. And then my sister called me, and she was like, "Yeah, your friend got killed." And I was like, "Damn."
How did your sister know?
I tell my sister everything. Oh, well, here's the thing.
Well, how did she find out about
You
that?
could look on, like burnco.gov or something. You could see who's locked up, who's pending. You could look up people's stuff.
Whoa.
You could find out a lot of information
Bernalillo
about
County,
people. Yeah, Burnco.
You just go search. She was just searching through stuff, or how did she find it?
I don't remember. I have to actually talk to her and remember that. But maybe it was on the news.
Oh.
That's what it was. It was on the news. She's like, yo, your homie got killed. And I was like, I thought he was in jail.
Oh.
So, excuse me, internet people.
He's burping. Yeah, that's some ASMR burping.
We're gonna edit that out.
No, we're not.
But no, this is cool. I wasn't trepidatious. I've been interviewed a bunch, but this is my first podcast. I was kind of like, you know, I showed up with notes and shit. It's kind of funny.
He's got a bunch of notes.
I got all these notes.
You want to? I mean, you wrote it. You want to take some time to go off some of these notes? I like that you
let me look through
put some notes through. No, man. Like, I think this thing really is just about. I don't know. I think there are people that, you know, they're not necessarily given the opportunity to talk in long form.
Right.
You know,
it's just like a little soundbite.
I mean, on a local aspect, you know, I think that's interesting, right? So I want to mostly get people that I think are personally interesting, but people suggest people.
That's cool.
And within our community, you know, like how many people do you know in this like community of Albuquerque that you've probably, you know, you've seen them multiple times, but you've only heard them talk maybe like 20 minutes at the most.
Right.
You know? So like listening to people for longer than like 20 minutes, you're going to learn more about them. You're going to learn
definitely
all kinds of shit. So that on the local aspect, that's pretty intriguing to me. And then it humanizes people a lot, you know?
Right.
And I hope I you know, it kind of makes people like, if I was ever gonna get canceled for some shit, I'd be like, yo, listen to my podcast and you'll know who I am better as a person than you will just like if something little I said or something, you know, little
was taken out of context.
You know? Like all kinds of shit, you know, like that, you know. And I just really want to find people that are just have interesting stuff to say and just like perspectives on the world that, you know, I've never heard of, you know.
Well, taking that is your prime directive. We have a lot of people in this, just in Albuquerque. I could think of 10 guests that should be on here. Randy Boogie would be a dope guest. He's in Arizona, but he's fam.
I love Randy.
yeah, we got so many good peers.
Dude, I mean, I'm never gonna struggle for content of finding people. It's more or less gonna be. I don't want to talk to people where I'm like, oh, okay, you're talking about what you talk about all the time. I really want to like dig into like, okay, this is something I've never heard from you before. Or
Interesting,
like,
yeah.
Or that kind of shit.
And you're gonna do this weekly or bi-weekly, or what's your setup?
Whatever works out.
Just whatever works.
Yeah.
So it's been Bueno Loco, and then
Ancora girls,
okay,
Bakery Girls, and then you.
Oh, word. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
This is the 13.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, we did a test one with Max, but it was
He's all, yow, 30 racks.
He told me about the first time he was ever interviewed on Hustler.
I'm sure that went smooth.
It was pretty funny.
Oh, dude, I got a dumb one. We kind of got into trouble with this. The 516 show, Street Arts or whatever.
You told me about this before.
Yeah, I got to meet Chaz Bojorquez, who's like a G, and I got to meet a lot of cool people and chill with them. But during the show, NPR was interviewing somebody, and me and Thomas Haig are behind the curtain just like popping Modelo's, and you just hear like psh, 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 and they're like, guys, we're fucking interviewing for NPR, can you stop? And we're like, yeah. And then we forgot, and like we're all psh, psh. And I was like, fuck, dude, we're miscreants. But it was kind of good, you know. You gotta.
But that kind of story.
Gotta mess with NPR every now and then.
You gotta do that kind of shit, man.
Yeah, it was our show, man.
I feel like, man, what was the TV show? There's some TV show that brought up this thought where I'm like, the world, the system, kind of only really rewards you for when you do things just slightly different. You know, it doesn't reward you for following everything to a T. It really doesn't, because you know, you look at people that have actually followed like the system to a T, and I'm like, they're not happy.
Bro, my sister's miserable. She was a valedictorian at Rio Grande High School, or salutatorian, valedictorian.
You just spoke for her. Is she really miserable?
I think so. She's taking care of my mom and dad, and then my dad died, and now she's taking care of my mom. And yo, Becky, I love you. I'm not being a dick here, but she got handed a hard hand, but she also kind of conformed to what society wanted her to be. And she should have gotten more for that. Well, I was like, you know, punk rock doing LSD. I basically went from like punk rock, and then I saw a Scared of Chaka show, and that's strangely enough where I met Tali. I was like 15 or 16. And we were at a Scared of Chaka show. So I went from basically like not knowing anything about music to Scared of Chaka and like, oh shit, punk rock, skateboarding. But once Wu-Tang happened, it was on. It was just fucking on. So I did everything kind of wrong, quote unquote, from society standards. And I love my life right now. But she literally like, good job, good education, blah, blah, blah. Now she's like saddled with debt. Like she's in all this debt. I'm in zero debt. I paid off all my debt. Hear that, ladies? I have all my teeth except for one. I have zero debt. I'm a catch.
No, Joel is a definite catch. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, except for I'm emotionally unavailable.
I think the problem is you don't realize you're a catch, but then also you're emotionally unavailable. But going back to that point, it's
kind of true.
Going back to the point, I really
sorry,
do think,
ladies,
I really
and gentlemen.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Oh, throw out a little question mark there.
Joel Kenobi.
No, just
question
kidding.
Mark.
Exclamation point. Sorry, I've had a couple Tecates. No, I'm not sorry. This is my first podcast. I love this shit.
Sorry. It's fun, man.
Little Birds, I love this kid. And there's few people I meet right away that I'm like, fuck yeah, I like this vibe. And I felt that right away about you. I was like, I was like, is this guy trolling me or is he just making conversation? Like, you know what I mean? Because I think you were a little you were a little guarded when I first met you.
Yeah.
But like a week later, we're just like cracking jokes. I'm like, I like this kid, dude.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be a little guarded. I think it depends on what's ever going on.
Like situationally.
Yeah. But I mean, like, yeah. Anyway.
Sorry, tangents. What else can we talk about?
I just think about like on this podcast how much people are going to learn about me through over it. You know, I'm like,
totally.
On the last one, I was like,
you're the guest on everyone in a way.
Exactly. You know,
that's why people like to hate on Rogan, but I'm like, yo, he'll talk to 5 people a week, And even if the podcast is getting boring, he'll revive it. What about this? And that's a skill, and it's like a muscle. That's a muscle that you're going to potentially flex.
That's definitely what I kind of want to chase is like, and like main thing was like I was noticing, like I told you this earlier, how like especially during like pandemic, and lockdown and shit, people are really craving the social aspect, and then all these podcasts popped up. And I'm like, yo, you're missing the point. You're trying to make it like a variety show and have only people on for like 10 minutes, and they got their little
their little spiel.
Yeah, they're projecting themselves and trying to like really get all that into.
It's all, yo, Jolie Wan Kenobi, one up, yeah, boop, 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 boop. It's like, no, let's talk. Yeah, let's talk for a minute. Here.
You want to have someone in your ear for like a good while and really get to know them, get to know their voice, like get to know their speaking pattern, get to know all these things.
The subtle nuances are the icing in the cake.
Yeah, and I think that can really help people. Like I have no idea, man. I don't even know what's gonna happen when we release any of these videos. They might just not live on the internet somewhere and not be anything. But for me, I mean, it's kind of selfish because I just want to have some social interaction with people. I want to talk with people, learn more about them, and then present their ideas to the world at the same time. And then,
that's a good mission statement.
Yeah, man.
Exactly.
And then a little bit of myself will always come across in it as well. And like I'm in the last podcast, the Ancora girls like asked me some questions, some really tough questions, some really deep personal questions, and I actually kind of was a little guarded on it a little bit, but I let a little bit go into.
Interesting. So they kind of took the role of the.
Yeah, they asked me some
questioner.
They asked me some questions where I was like, "Damn, like y'all gonna ask me that right now?"
I'll listen to that.
Like I don't wanna necessarily answer that question,
That's good.
And I think that aspect of it's going to be kind of interesting because the other thing about podcasts is since it is long form, and I'm more or less delving into how people think.
Totally.
It's really kind of based on how you think today. So I'm going to have you come back on, Joel, and
I want to be
and maybe you'll have listened to this podcast and you're going to be like, I don't think like that at all anymore. Or like, no, I'm still doing this same shit. And I think that's really important for people to, kind of hear themselves, and really just the main message of all of it is that we're ever evolving.
Totally.
There's no absolutes,
Everything's a gray zone to
Exactly.
speak simplistically. Everything. I mean, I have a friend who was a murderer, and now he's just like the nicest dude you'll ever meet. I have a friend that was a good kid, and now he's a fucking junkie. Like, it's a path, and those are extreme. I'm using that for the sake of conversation to paint a narrative, but people are complex, and you can't just break it down, And that's what's cool about these long format conversations, and I think that's what's been missing in. I mean, I don't watch television, but sometimes, like when my dad was still alive, he'd be watching Fox News or some shit. It's these crazy sound bites that just support, a certain perspective or the opposing perspective. And it's so crazy. And some people think that that's normal conversation, when normal conversation is kicking it with your friends in Hamas over a campfire, or building a house with your homie on his land, or sitting with Little Bird having a conversation. Some people don't get that. And I remember I'd go to Zendo, and it'd be like 20 people just sitting there silent. And I'd see like one of my obnoxious friends, and we would just be like, "Oh shit, what up?" Hugging each other and cracking jokes, and everyone was like looking at us like, "I'm studying." I'm like, fuck all y'all, man. I respect your time, but I'm not gonna not be me, dude, just because it's a situation.
I feel that.
Does that make sense? And no offense. I love that spot. Man. You're wearing the Zendo shirt.
I would always I love
Pilar.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna not be me ever. And that's the thing.
Have Pilar on the podcast.
She would be awesome, actually.
I would love having Pilar on the podcast. But I would feel that about Zendo too, like because I'm like, yo, this like especially Zendo, because Zendo is such a community space and such a like Are you grabbing your crystal?
Grabbing the crystal.
He's got his crystal now.
I ran out of Tecates, so I grabbed a big crystal.
The whole thing's gonna shift, man.
I'm gonna be like Om Nam Padme.
But no, I would be like that as Zendo too, man. Like I feel like there's something that
and I respect people's silence too. Yeah, I'm kind of making a joke of that.
There is something about, I love when I see a bum come through, and I'm saying bum in the most
sort of generic,
terms. But also like I think bum is I love the term bum. I don't see it as a negative.
Oh,
But
interesting.
I love when a loud bum comes through anywhere and disrupts with some like loud something or something.
Yeah.
I love that shit. And maybe it's the artist in me. I don't know. I love when I see something just out of the ordinary that disrupts something, you know.
A preconceived social normative.
Exactly.
We have to be silent on our MacBook Pros. Then you see some crazy dude cursing. See, yeah, I'm.
Or reciting the Bible. Or
Oh
some
yeah,
shit,
that's
you know?
the best. I'm pretty good at that. Like, not. Well, I don't know what I mean by that, but I could like walk a person out without disrespecting them or letting it escalate to violence. At RB Winnings, I had to, or Winnings now nothing.
I mean, when I worked as
I had to remove a lot of fools.
I had to do that a
and I
couple
wouldn't do it rough, but I could be like, hey man, let's check this out. Let's go talk over here.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I want to get good at jiu-jitsu. One of these bums might be a like crouching ninja, hidden,
Drunken master, dude. Yeah.
crouching 40, hidden ninja, like you
Crouching
know.
40.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
You know.
No, I'm into that, man, because it's like was it Kerouac that said, for me are the mad ones, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that.
And I mean, a lot of my work is based on mental health and mental conditions and shit like that, so it's very intriguing to me, just because of the history that I have in my family and stuff, but and many other things.
Right.
So like speaking, anytime that something comes in and disrupts it, and I just love that strain from a normative
It's almost like chaos.
Yeah, that chaos theory.
Huh. Yeah, I had a friend go crazy schizophrenic. I think this was a while ago. His name was Mark. He was a really good friend of mine, and we can't figure it out. Either we knew he had some like underlying mental conditions. Excuse me. He was kind of fucked up, but like he was an MMA fighter. He sustained a head injury, and he just got really weird after that. Like really fucking weird. And all my friends were like, something's off, something's weird. He was the bouncer at Anodyne for years. I think that was before your time. Little Jewish cat. Doesn't look crazy at all, but
Yeah,
he was a
21.
he was a Wing Chun master, and Wing Chun is a form of kung fu, a master, right? So that's kind of scary. So suddenly he's hallucinating visually and seeing things that weren't there, and dude, he owned an apartment in Manhattan and a house here, but yet he thought that there were like dead people in his house, and he kind of became homeless, right? He became transient. And I'd see him, oh, Mark, what's up, man? And he's like, you're one of the only good ones. And he was all fucking crazy. Anyway, one day he was sleeping behind my house on Bryn Mawr, and I didn't know he was there. I just opened the gate to go to do a day of construction, and it's freezing. I'm like, Mark, fuck, what are you doing, man? And I was like, come take a shower, dude. And he's like, no, there's dead people in your house. I was like, okay, well, fuck. And before this, my friend Todd and I tried to take him in my Toyota 4Runner to go see a mental health expert, and he jumped out of my truck at like 15, 20 miles an hour and rolled and like ran away. And we weren't going to physically restrain him. He was a fucking Wing Chun master. And he knew grappling. So I'm like, what the fuck do you do with that? So anyway, as we were trying, and finally we're like, okay, we can't physically restrain him. We can't talk him into going and talking to a mental health professional. Anyway, he's behind my house. I hand him this blanket, and he looks at it all weird, and he's like, a crazy lady used to own this blanket. And what's crazy is a crazy-ass bitch I used to kick it with owned that blanket. He didn't know that. But I think when you're schizophrenic, if let's say we have all of our all of our dials. Let's say me and you, we're like on 5. Sound is on 5. The bass and treble's on 5. My personal perspective, and I'm obviously not a mental health expert, is that all of your dials are turned all the way up. So he was psychic. He was seeing shit. He was probably seeing interdimensional stuff. He was probably living in a past and present tense. It was fucking bananas.
Well, I mean,
and he ended up. Let me finish this real quick because it's fucked up. I saw him, and he was really weird, and he was saying, "Oh, your friend Sean, he appeared. They're hobbits and all this shit." And I was like, "Oh yeah, Bilbo Baggins." I'm trying to crack jokes with him. He fucking tried to shoot. Okay, this is a crazy story. I haven't told anybody this publicly. I had the button to his garage door opener, and I made sure he wasn't in his house because he was homeless at that point. Snuck into his house. He lived off Washington. And he had a pistol there. I took the pistol kind of apart and then put it back together because I know if I just took the pistol, he'd go buy another one. He had fucking probably 20 G's in the bank, but he was crazy as shit. So I fucked the pistol up. Anyway, about a month later, he tried to shoot a person at some motel, and there's a video of it. You could see it. I'm not making this up, people. He tries to shoot the person, and the gun doesn't work, and he looks at it all confused, and then the people run back and lock a door. And then he proceeds. So I'm wondering, perhaps inadvertently, I prevented that from happening. I don't know. But then he went on this high-speed chase, and it was crazy. He was going up Central, and then to San Mateo, and then to Lead, and then to Central. He's going in this big fucking circle. He was crazy. And he ended up shooting himself on San Mateo and Central because the cops, I think they bumped him. You know what I mean? They have that technique. They'll bump you and your car will spin out. Yeah. And he blew his fucking head off. And it was weird. And the day before that, he was telling people, he's like, yeah, Joel's one of the good ones. He ran into my homie Mike. He's like, I have to kill him to save him. Where does Joel live? And he's like walking around with a pistol and shit. And I just moved. Like, he was like, I went to Joel's house on Bryn Mawr and he wasn't there.
Holy shit.
Where does Joel live? And I moved from Bryn Mawr, I think, to my friend Leela's house on, look, I don't even remember what road, but it was in the...
What, man?
It was by the country club. And yeah, and Mike was like, I don't know.
Dude.
And then, yeah, he ended up getting killed.
Dude.
It was crazy, man.
Something got disrupted, man.
I don't know if his head got bumped too much. I think he was always crazy, but he got hit in the head and just got weirder and weirder. So I don't know. That was sort of a tangent, but
I mean,
yeah. Rest in peace, Mark.
Whoa, that is an intense story. Holy shit!
Like if you went crazy, I would just like try to like bear hug you and drag you somewhere because I have like 50 pounds on you. But this dude was like a martial arts master. What do you do?
Hey man,
it's fucked up.
I'm a master in something else. I'm just kidding.
Now you probably choke me out. I would just throw my fat ass weight around to be like, yo, son. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I'm just trying to make light of that.
Every
but
fight I've ever won has been like, I never thought I was going to win that fight.
I've lost most fights, but honestly, growing up in the South Valley as a kid, I got jumped a lot. There's one time I was like 6 or 7, and my friend Kenyon was 8 or 9, and straight up like dudes with mustaches, like fucking dudes with mustaches jumped us. And I remember I escaped and I was hiding in this bush.
Why is the mustache important?
Because they're old enough to have a mustache. Okay. Not just, that's some creepy shit, right? So it's like, hey, check out my mustache, bitch.
Man, there's mustache.
No, these fucking dudes. I remember I was hiding under this, because you had to run from people back then and dogs and shit. We would dig under the big bushes. We'd dig a little hole under it so you could like stash out. And I remember, I still feel guilty about this. I was like stashed out because I got away. And these fucking, like, almost adults were whipping my friend Kenyon with a dog chain. And he was like a kid. Jesus. And I'm sitting there going like, oh, shit, I should do something. But I'm fucking 8, you know? God like, damn, dude. Yeah, crazy, man.
Fuck, bro.
I internalized a lot of fear until the last few years. I figured out how to let it go.
Damn.
Oh, yeah, we gotta have a couple of podcasts just on that shit, man.
Yeah, man.
Fuck.
But that's shit that people need to hear, though, man. You know,
I suppose,
because I don't know. I really try when I look at anybody. I really look at them like, oh, you're still. I like try. It's a weird kind of thought, but like you kind of have to look at people like you were still a child, you know, because it's easy to look at people like hardened and beat down by life and be like, man, what a fucking bitch, or like, oh man, what a fucking asshole. This
person is carrying his or herself in a not professional way.
Yeah, or like people that are just like not just miserable in life or like treating you horribly for some reason. You know, look at it like, okay, what trauma did you have as a kid that made you this way? You know,
totally.
Or even like what trauma have you experienced recently? You know, that's put you into a thing. Because I genuinely do think as human beings, we really do want the best of each other. And there are a few outliers that just can't fucking handle the reality, honestly.
Sociopaths or people whose brains have been broken, or any number of variables, honestly.
Like, you've had a crazy life. I have had a crazy life. I've seen some crazy things, but it's my own understanding and interpretation of those crazy things, just as your own understanding and interpretation of crazy. I experienced the same exact crazy things that you went through, it's going to be a whole nother person.
And the cool thing about that, and again, that's why I'm trying hard to not judge even people that judge the harshest, is you and I could see or do the same thing, and through the lens of our experience, it'll be a totally different memory.
Exactly.
And I apply that to even, I had someone popping off not too long ago, and I was like, I'm viewing it through the lens of how we're discussing right now, and it softens everything. It softens everything to be like, you were just a baby at some point, and so was I, and then this happened, and it's just this progression or regression. But
or even how you said you feel bad for not getting up and doing something, right? But you're 8 years old.
I'm
right?
8 years old,
right?
Yeah, and I got like 10 of those stories, man. I had a few things like that.
But
happen.
someone else, if they were 8 years old and that's something they would have done something different, and that would have made them a different person to who they are.
You know what's scary? Some of maybe on the next podcast I'll go into some of the worst South Valley kid stories, but if I would have went home and
South Valley kid story,
bro, I could invite some veterano dudes here to tell some terrible stories. It'd be funny.
That would be great.
That'd be a good one, actually. We should think about that. But if I would have ran home and told my dad, he was so crazy, he would have just went and go shot people. So I couldn't tell my dad, who was the masculine figure.
He didn't want that to happen.
Oh, he'd go blast fools. He was crazy as fuck, Vietnam dude. So I'm like, well, I can't really tell him what's up. But yet, a normal kid could tell his dad, like, hey, Joseph tried to jump me. Fuck no. So it was weird. It was a juggling act. I read a book called Understanding Complex PTSD. And what came to mind is there's like archetypes of how you deal with trauma. Like there's the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
What's the fawn?
Fawn, and I'm glad you asked that because that's what I was going to reference right now, is... I'd rather have dad happy than him on a rampage. So like, let's say dad comes home and, fucks shit up, throws a bowl of pozole at your mom or whatever, right? My sister would be like, I'll clean it up. Is everyone good? Like they're trying to make everyone cool. They're trying to make everyone cool at the expense of their own comfort, right? Oh, are you happy? I'll do whatever. So that's the fawn personification, pleasing. And it's interesting. I read this book, and I'm going to have to read it again before I quote it further because it was very beneficial. I realized that I was a freeze archetype as opposed to fight or flight. I'll freeze. And one time I was rock climbing with a friend, and I kind of had a panic attack, and I was belaying him, and I forgot what to do. I just fucking forgot. And this Rasta dude had to come up to me like, yo, man, you got to do this and this. Because it was like kind of a dangerous situation. And this dude happened to be walking by and dropped knowledge on me and saved my friend Lewis's life. I mean, he would have just fell in and got a whipper or whatever, but I was like, I didn't know what to do. It was interesting. And after that, I'm like...
So you felt like you froze more or less?
I froze. Fuck yeah, I froze.
Dude, that's interesting you bring that up, man, because that's a very... I think that's played into a lot of my art as well, because I used to have really, really, really bad lower back sciatic pain, and so I went to a chiropractor for it, and they analyze you and do all this shit, and they do that. They do this test that measures your fight or flight, and
interesting. And
on the test, I didn't score fight, flight, freeze. And they're like, you're somewhere, we don't know what the fuck this is.
Frump is the fifth.
Oh, I guess so, yeah.
The unspoken.
But I don't know if maybe it is fawn. Maybe I do try to get to a point of balance and try to please people. And I'm actually more and more. I probably laid that into my individuality, like, oh, I'm special, like blah blah. But more and more, I think that more people have that.
A lot of people do. We want to soothe stuff over.
Yeah, we want to get to this point of we think it's balance, but it's really not balance. It's
an extreme, perhaps.
Yeah, it's because if it was true balance, it would be taking care of yourself as well. And when you fawn, you're sacrificing a lot of yourself in it because you're trying to make everybody else happy.
And a lot of from my perspective, people. I'm not trying to be gendered here, but a lot of women I know that have been in relationships with fucked up dudes. They try to fawn it. Oh, it's cool. He's just crazy. They get in this role. Yeah. And that's really unfortunate because I've done the same thing. Never in relationships. I've only raised my voice at a lover once, and I still think about that. So, it takes so long for me to actually get reactionary. Usually I'm reactionary against myself.
In your own shortcomings.
Oh yeah, I'll beat the fuck out of myself. But like, the dude robbing Tali's car, like I'll rush that dude. But I rush myself 100 more times than I rush that crazy face tatted junkie dude that I actually have compassion for. Is a funny thing. I have compassion for these people, because if I didn't have a good social peer group, who knows what would have happened,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that fear of like what you're capable of that would hurt people is probably staves away a lot of that,
Nelson Mandela has a famous quote, and I'm not going to remember it, but he's talking about how some people are more afraid of what they're capable of. Subconsciously, it's like this fear of success almost. Yeah. I think on some levels I have a taste of that because for years I'd underbid my work. Oh, I don't know, 1,000. Now I'm just like, fuck that. Pay me. I know I'm good at what I do.
Damn, dude, that's crazy, man. I'm glad to hear you say that because
it took a long time.
I feel like you were saying something way different a year ago. You were not talking like that a year ago.
I'm like, I'll trade you this sculpture for 40 and an eighth of weed, buddy.
You really weren't talking like that a year ago.
Oh, that's cool. That's good to hear, man.
Because right when you just said that, like, no, man, fucking pay me.
Fuck pay me, dude.
You weren't saying that shit a year ago.
I'm the best tile artist in New Mexico, probably.
Yeah.
Nah, just kidding, folks. There's a lot of good dudes. Dudes and dudesettes.
Well, I feel like that's the for me in this podcast has been like it's really cool to reflect upon where you're at, Joel.
Word, thank you, man.
A year from since
we've known each other about a year, huh?
Yeah,
that's crazy, man. You're one of the only people I get to know this intimately that quickly. Usually it takes a long time. I'm pretty guarded too, believe it or not.
I think that's probably part of my problem, though, is I'm guarded initially, but then I'll get to know people very deeply, very quickly.
It's a good thing.
Well,
it could be a bad thing.
It's not. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing or it's a good thing.
Okay, it's just
for me personally, it's hard to navigate because, like I said, in my life, I really only got room for like a couple people in this inner circle.
Yeah.
And because I don't know, I'm trying better to be at management of time with people and stuff because I look at it like that. I more or less, I was very comfortable with death at a very young age.
Yeah.
And I more or less look at this life as like, it's fucking like we're living like some kind of weird story played out, and
we're just a flesh vehicle with a conscientiousness implanted into it somehow.
I'm so comfortable with what happens next because that's beautiful.
That's cool, man.
So
good
ready.
For you.
I'm so ready for what happens next, and I'm ready to be in that realm so much more. That a lot of my confusion in this world happens with like, well, it does seem finite. The amount of time you have in this world is finite. Whereas like, why would you like really struggle upon and battle with like this finite time? Whereas like, there's so much more infinite and beautifulness that comes afterwards, And so I do struggle with like, I'm very open with people. I'm very authentic with people. And I think people will get attached to that and they'll want so much of it. They want it more and more and more and more. They really want that like all at the time.
You have like 3 homies trying to wife up with you and you're like, yo, I'm not even into that way.
Yeah.
I talked to you about aliens once and you think we're BFFs.
Exactly, man. So like for me,
I get that actually.
I have to like set some boundaries of like, yo, I don't want you to not feel worth it, but at the same time, I value you at the same time, and it sucks, it sucks because you don't want people to feel invalidated, you don't want people to feel not important, and
I feel like I'm kind of figuring out because I'm the kind of dude like I could not see some of my friends for a year, and then we're back on page 1, like, yo, what up, son?
But those are my favorite friends.
But then I have a few friends that if I don't check up on them every few months, they feel like I'm personally being a jerk. And that's not it at all. But now that I'm realizing that people want that, I should just give them a fucking phone call, you know? But I'm weird, man. I'll see.
But that
I'll see someone
maybe
every
that comes
few.
from that fawn though, trying to please everybody.
Perhaps, huh?
I had to think about that too, man. I had to think about that. You kind of do have to like. you kind of do have to let that go. You do kind of do it like, yo, like, what about me? What about me?
And I have a weird insecurity. If I have a day off, if I'm not making art or money, I'm like, fuck. I'm wasting my time.
Same thing.
And if I didn't have art, dude, I would probably be one of those crazy dudes on the street. Maybe a humorous version of that, but like, thank fucking God, Allah, whoever the fuck, I have a space that I can go to express myself. And it's come at great, it's taken years. It's taken years to finally have like a safe art space and all that. And I deserve it and I'm happy for it. But I'm just like, thank God I have that, because if I didn't, who knows what I'd do?
Well, you kind of just said what my definition of an artist really is. What my personal definition of an artist is. Someone that, people can call themselves artists, and we can call people other artists. But
it's an ambiguous term, perhaps.
I really do think someone that is like an artist is someone that keeps a space for themselves to go be that.
Totally.
And if you're not doing that, then you're kind of posing.
Bro, there was like 10 years that I only worked just to have a space. I worked to make art. Yeah. Actually, that's kind of what I'm doing now, but I make more money now, so it's easier. But that's kind of always been my prime directive.
And I'm not even talking about like a physical studio space. I'm talking about like you find some place that's sacred to you, and that could be like, for the graph heads, it's
a tunnel, a train yard.
It's anything,
Right.
It's that space that you allow.
Agreed.
And I think for the longest time,
sanctity in that.
I think that's why I didn't make art for a very long time, even though like I was very frustrated, very early 20s, because I didn't have a physical space to make things.
Okay.
But I realized it was more or less I didn't give myself. I didn't allow myself to have a space to do that.
Two words are very important: allow and preference.
Exactly.
Thomas Haig taught me that term. He's like, do exactly what you want to do. Well, my sister, I'm not hating on her. I love her. She's my best friend. She's like, well, if I do what I want to do, it might offend other people, or I don't have time to help mom and dad. But then deep down, she's like, fuck, I wish I had time to do this. Preference. I try to only do what I want to do. And that sounds maybe egoic or selfish, but if I do everything I want to do, I will be a better person for a partner. I will be a better art maker. I will be a better friend to you if I have my shit together. And it takes, for me, solitude, manifesting artwork. And now, yoga and cold plunging. Yeah. So I have more tools in my toolbox, and I'm very grateful for that. Yeah. And I'm just thankful that I've been turned on to all these things, Yeah. And I'd like to turn on other people, but I'm also like Broga, for example. I invited you because you're a homie. I know you'd benefit from the cold plunge because you talked about it before we even did it. But there's like 10 people hitting me up for Broga, and I'm kind of like, why it's cool is there's like 5 or 6 of us. If there's 20 of us, the vibe's a little different. So it's like there's certain sacred things, and then there's certain things for just the masses. But then it's like, I'm lucky enough. I have a tight friends, and then I have like a big periphery that I have love for too. But I can't give that part of myself to all of them, or there'll be nothing left for myself.
Yeah, they talk about it like on the airplane, you got to put your own mask on first before you help someone else.
Future would disagree with that. He's like, mask off. Put your mask off. There's logic in that. Yeah. But then there's also logic that the mask is just putting you into a state of somnambulance, or it's kind of dumbing you down so you don't scare that you're going to fall down into the fucking world. Yeah.
Well, I think I was talking about this earlier, how we are creatures that want to have these epiphanies, right? Because it feels good to have
epiphanies, it gives you a reference point.
Yeah. And but there's also this thing about like you could be told something 100 times, and that's what an epiphany kind of is. It's like, you've already heard this shit.
Once you experience it, you feel something that words might not even, there might even not be words for your feeling. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's hard to finish your thought there.
You've heard this shit. I know, I agree with you. You've heard this shit like 100 times, and you know it, and you're aware of it. More or less, like, I don't give, everyday people credit in awareness, you know, and I think that's a lot of ego. Like I'm like, sometimes I'll be like, why is this shit happening to me? I'm so aware. This shit shouldn't be happening to me because I'm so fucking aware. But I think that's you know, that
trick of the ego.
For real.
Yeah, we all have that thought process at times, though.
But you said something along the lines, like someone recently told me that like you got to take care of yourself because I love that person that you take care of.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And if you're not taking care of that person, then you're hurting me as well. And so
wow.
for some reason, hearing that made me think, I mean, it seems so simple and so clear. Like when you think like, I mean, even people that are listening to this right now, I'm like, well, yeah, obviously. But like hearing that, I'm like, you're right. You know, how am I gotta really nurture and take care of the person that's going to take care of other people.
Totally.
Because we get too attached to like taking care of the self and the selfish needs, and we get too attached to taking care of
others without yourself.
I think that's where you should start. You know, like because I mean, this big idea of like self-care and stuff and like doing yoga and maybe eating vegan or eating better or like not drinking or all this shit is like, I'm taking care of myself. And it's really, really still ego driven, but you're like, no. You have to break it down to you're taking care of yourself so that you can take care of the person that other people love.
That's funny you said that. Back in the day, I was trying to be like punk rock vegan dude. And I was a terrible vegan. I was a junk food vegan. But I was all skinny and fucked up. And my mom was like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm fucking vegan. I'm punk rock. Yeah, this was a long time ago, people. But my mom was...
punk rock to be vegan.
It was, yeah, back in the day. And my mom was just like, if you don't take proper care of yourself, you can't survive in the apocalypse, or you can't, you know, she's using my terminology. She's talking to me like I'm a little idiot. But she was right. Like, I'm not going to be a good man to a partner. I'm not going to be, you know, I'd run into a burning building to save people. But if I'm all fucked up, I won't be able to do it. That's kind of a silly analogy, but... dude, I need to pee really bad. Should we end it, or could I pee and come back? Because I still got some dumb stories. We're about 2 hours, maybe?
We're up on 2 hours. Do you think people listen 2 hours?
2's the kind of the cusp.
All right. Well, I mean, if you want to pee, we can end it right now.
Well,
we'll have you on again.
All right, word. Well, Little Bird
out.
Much love, dog. Jolie Wan Kenobi. Word. Thank you all.
One of my favorite artists. I wanted you to have you on.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I'll do podcast number 15. How about that?
Okay. All right. 15.
Word.
If we get to 15.
We'll have 100. Peace, y'all.
Later.
Good night.